Good evening from Boston. I'm Anderson Cooper. Tonight, the son of a Republican president, the widow of a Republican senator addressing the convention tonight. Makes you wonder what's up with the Democrats. 360 starts now. Kerry calls for action now on the 9/11 Commission's recommendations. But who's trying to muzzle opposition to the Iraq War at the convention? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So who came up with this one? Republican attack dogs pounce on a photo, and Democrats bite back with an embarrassing photo of their own. Tonight, the raw politics of pictures. Democrats say let Teresa be Teresa. But what's she gonna say tonight on the podium? We'll talk live with Vanessa Kerry about her stepmom, her politics, and her willingness to say what's really on her mind. Tonight, Teddy Kennedy goes prime time. His town, his night. But is the Kennedy clan still relevant to the party? And a 360 exclusive. Live one-on-one with U2's Bono, rock superstar turned political activist. But is this convention buying what he's selling?
This is a special edition of Anderson Cooper 360, live from the Democratic National Convention in Boston.
And welcome again to 360. It is night 2 of the Democratic National Convention here in Boston, Mass. Last night there was so much unity in the room, the same signs, the same messages. Some said it felt like a typical Republican convention. Glance at the list of speakers tonight, you could say the same thing. Ron Reagan, son of the most popular Republican president of our time, and Teresa Heinz Kerry, whose first husband was a Republican senator. Both address this body later tonight. A lot to get you up to date on right now. John Kerry is making his way north. CNN's Frank Buckley reports on his day for us. Dana Bash is in Boston reporting on developments in the Democrats' position on Iraq, what you will and what you won't hear tonight about the war. And our own Candy Crowley is standing by with a look at what to expect tonight. A good place to start, we think. Candy?
Anderson, last night you looked at the primetime lineup and you saw it was all about going back, a trip down memory lane, Gore, Clinton, Carter. Tonight you look and there's a little bit of the past and a little bit of the future, but mostly it's very intriguing. If you like politics or juxtaposition, you'll love the Kerry-thon Day 2.
You said something I didn't say, now shove it.
It features the unscripted wife of the Democratic nominee who has a script his campaign prays she'll stick to, and the son of a Republican president whose presence means more to Democratic politics than his script.
Having seen Mr. Reagan over the past couple decades, I'm sure he'll be very comfortable at the Democratic convention, and I'm sure they'll welcome him there.
You betcha they will. The son of one of the Republicans' most beloved presidents got prime time, baby. I mean, Hillary fans had to complain before she got a hot spot. Also of prime concern, Barack Obama. Who, you ask? Well, that's why he got the keynote slot. The party wants you to know Barack Obama, probably the next senator from Illinois, charismatic, smooth, and on message for the Kerry Fest.
This is a guy who has better prepared for the presidency than anybody I've ever seen. Enormously engaging, enormously caring, and enormously intelligent.
While it boosts the profile of a rising star, the party will also embrace the legacy of a man in his own stratosphere among Democrats. It is Teddy Kennedy night in Boston. The convention he never got is his for one evening. Now about that no Bush bashing rule.
We cannot lead if our leaders mislead.
Democrats say so far, so good, no Bush bashing. But the way Republicans count, there were 2 Bush bashes for every Kerry kudo Monday night. It all depends on what the definition of bashing is. Further challenging that definition tonight is, of course, Howard Dean. Howard Dean, one of the speakers. He, of course, made his career, at least in the presidential arena, with a lot of anti-Bush rhetoric. Aides say that he has toned it down a little, but you'll hear a little of it as well. Anderson?
I'm sure we will. Candy Crowley, thanks. The man whose shadow is already visible here at the Democratic National Convention is nonetheless still some 300 miles outside Boston, campaigning his way north. And today, a tactical move from the candidate as he criticized the sitting president for not acting swiftly enough on the recommendations issued last week by the 9/11 Commission. A report on that now. John Kerry's Day from CNN's Frank Buckley.
The once Navy Lieutenant John Kerry appeared before the battleship USS Wisconsin to make the case that now he should be the Commander-in-Chief.
Our beloved country never goes to war because it wants to. We go to war because we have to.
Senator Kerry also used the setting to prod President Bush to act on the recommendations of the 9/11 Commission, suggesting he hasn't acted quickly enough.
If I were president today, if I'd been president last week, I would have immediately said to the Commission, yes, we're going to implement those recommendations.
Kerry's criticism of Bush on a national security issue comes as polls continue to show more voters believe President Bush is better able to handle terrorism. Kerry, who was a swift boat commander in Vietnam, decorated with silver and bronze stars and 3 Purple Hearts, enlisted a fellow swift boat skipper to try to assure voters he's up to the job.
He is, in fact, a combat veteran, a strong, decisive leader.
And back here live now in Philadelphia, you're looking at Senator Kerry as he just wraps up his final rally before moving on to Boston. We're in Philadelphia at the Art Museum. Even Senator Kerry's arrival in Boston tomorrow is designed to illustrate Senator Kerry's wartime experience. We were told today that he'll be arriving at Logan International Airport, then taking a boat into the city, accompanied by 13 of his swift boat crewmates from Vietnam. As we say tonight, this is the last stop in the battleground state of Pennsylvania before heading tomorrow to Boston. Anderson.
It is all about the photo opportunity. Frank Buckley, thanks very much. Kerry's running mate, John Edwards, is here in Boston. Here's a quick news note for you. Edwards and his family flew into Logan Airport this afternoon. His aides say that he is feeling fine after nursing a cold and raspy voice for the last couple of days. He will need that when he accepts the Democratic vice presidential nomination in the biggest speech of his political career. No doubt one of the central issues of the fall campaign will be the war in Iraq. You'd think that would also be a central issue here, a place where Democrats, especially on their own platform, would take a stand in opposition. After all, opposition to the war is what energized many Democrats this election year. But as in most things, as in politics, there's a lot of gray, not just black and white. Here's White House correspondent Dana Bash.
Like many delegates gathered in Boston, Sheila Blake believes the Iraq War never should have happened.
And we're not any safer. We created more terrorism as far as I'm concerned.
In fact, a recent New York Times CBS News poll says 9 in 10 delegates here think war was a mistake.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
But the Democrats' platform, the official party position, does not say war in Iraq was the wrong call. Instead, it reads, quote, people of goodwill disagree about whether America should have gone to war in Iraq.
I myself would have stronger language as far as the platform goes.
Party officials concede there was healthy debate when they hammered out language earlier this month, and it's not over.
Because we went in with the right intentions, I believe. Unfortunately, now that we're there, we can't turn our back on the people who are over there.
Not surprisingly, they settled largely on John Kerry's approach. Look for more international troops, train Iraqi forces, stabilize, don't withdraw.
Platform also has to appeal to a broad constituency. It can't simply represent my views or any other individual's views.
But the candidate that rallied the anti-war movement gave all this a shoulder shrug.
This is the 7th convention I've been to. I've long learned that platforms don't mean anything.
Republicans are trying to stoke what they call a split among Democrats.
I think the platform, by the way, reflects the wisdom of George Bush's policy and approach. It doesn't reflect the feelings of the folks on that floor.
And the unspoken challenge for Democrats here, of course, is that both senators on the ticket voted for the war. But the platform is quite tough on the president, accusing him of exaggerating the threat and underestimating what was needed to win the peace in Iraq. Anderson.
Dan Bash, thanks very much. Live from the Fleet Center here in Boston. 360 next, Al Sharpton joins us live. Never afraid to speak his mind. Certainly hear what he has to say about the war in Iraq, John Kerry, and the Democrats who disagree. Plus, rock star activist Bono, a 360 exclusive. He's joining us live. He's going to be at the Republican convention as well, but the question is anyone listening to what he's selling? Also tonight, the patriarch of a Democratic dynasty, Senator Edward Kennedy, takes a major role tonight. We'll look at the power he and his family still hold over Democrats. We'll be right back.
Anderson Cooper 360's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is brought to you by Bud Light. Fresh, smooth, real. Bud Light, it's all here.
Come on, come on. The fact is, all light beers are low in carbs.
This is for you and your crew, the ones that's true will always love you, no matter what you do.
Choose on taste. Fresh, smooth, real. It's all here.
Cholesterol. It comes grilled, fried, slow cooked, and twice baked. But did you know it also comes from Mom, Dad, Grandma Ethel, or Grandpa Sam? Your bad cholesterol doesn't just come from food. It's also produced naturally by your body, based on heredity. So, now you know, everyone's bad cholesterol comes from two sources, food and family. If you're having a hard time lowering your cholesterol, ask your doctor about the two sources of cholesterol.
Hi.
Oh, how sweet.
Hope you're hungry. Yeah, I just finished working out, so.
I've been reading up on this new raw food movement. I found a really great recipe. It's rich in enzymes. Awesome vibes. It hasn't been cooked yet, so it's like it's alive. Well, what do you think?
Yellow Book, solving life's little problems. Yellow Book, not the other book. Call 1-800-YB-YELLOW.
If you're thinking about refinancing your mortgage to lower your monthly payments or to cash out equity, call or click on to Ditech.com. Right now, Ditech is offering a $395 flat fee home loan with 0 points that may save you thousands of dollars in closing costs. Let Ditech take the mystery out of lender closing costs. Get the $395 flat fee home loan from Ditech.com. Just call 1-800-DITECH-1 or apply online at Ditech.com.
And welcome back. We are live at the Fleet Center here in Boston. Probably safe to say that in a business where staying on message, on script is key, Reverend Al Sharpton is the king of the ad-libbers. In a series of debates before the primaries, he uniformly had the best one-liners by far and consistently upstaged his Democratic rivals. He didn't get the votes, but he got an awful lot of attention. Tomorrow, Reverend Sharpton will have a message and a script as he addresses the convention. We'll wonder if he'll stick with them this time. Reverend Sharpton, thanks for being with us tonight. I'm doing all right. During the primaries, you focused a lot and you talked a lot about wanting to bring your issues to the platform here, your issues to the table here. Are you disappointed that you're not hearing much opposition to the war in Iraq? Because that was something you spoke very strongly about.
Well, I think we changed the debate on that. I came out against the war even before Dean. Absolutely. And I think that now we've seen Kerry and Edwards, who voted for the war and were supportive when we first started debating, now themselves saying they were misled and we shouldn't have gone in.
But you're not hearing it tonight. You're not hearing it here at the convention floor. You're not. Opposition to the war mobilized a lot of Democrats, but you're not really hearing it here.
Well, again, we're only going on our second night. We don't know what we'll hear tonight. I think we did hear that from Jimmy Carter last night.
You're going to hear that from you tomorrow night?
You're going to hear that from me. I'm sure you hear from Howard Dean. I'm sure you're going to hear about the war from both our presidential and vice presidential candidates. I'm very content that we helped change the debate. If I was not in those debates, I don't know if we'd have taken that issue on as early as we did.
There's been a lot of I guess, control, you could say, over what the messages every night are going to be. Have you vetted your speech with the Kerry folks?
I've asked what the themes are, and I've tried to be consistent with those themes. No one has told me that I'm being edited or restrained, but I think that if you're part of trying to win, you want to be consistent with the message, and I intend to be consistent with that.
Take to win here. We're told no Bush bashing.
No, I think what we're saying is that we don't want to have to be as ugly as they've been, and that we're not only anti-Bush, we are that, but we're also pro-Kerry, and we have reason to be pro-Kerry, and we want to lay that out to the American people over these 4 days.
How many people really, the American people, know what John Kerry's positions are? If, Washington Post, ABC News poll said 54% of the people, I think, said voters are unfamiliar with Kerry's positions. That's got to be a big concern.
I think that you increase that over the period of time of a convention, and that's why you have such huge media budgets and grassroots organizing. The good news is that most Americans do know what Bush stands for, and many of them, and I feel by November, most of them will be voting to reject that.
Paul Begala keeps telling me, and I'm not sure I believe him, but I'd be interested to hear what you think. He keeps saying this is a referendum on the president, that it almost doesn't matter what John Kerry does, what John Kerry says. People are going to be going to the polls with the President Bush in mind, yes or no. You think that's true?
Clearly, I think you cannot unseat an incumbent without it being a referendum on him. I happen to think John Kerry has a lot of pluses, but you clearly are talking about running against an incumbent. What was Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton was running against George Bush Sr., who he unseated because of people's dissatisfaction. I don't care how good the opposition is. If people are satisfied with the incumbent, they will not vote against them.
So what does John Kerry have to do? Does he have to show himself to be tough on foreign policy, tough on security, that he can protect America better than President Bush?
He has to make Americans secure that he can do what Bush did not do. He has to show what he didn't do, and he has to make them very comfortable that I am capable, able, and competent to do what he didn't do, and I'm convinced he can do that.
Yeah, what are you going to be speaking about tomorrow night?
I'm going to talk about the promise of America. I'm going to talk about why I think John Kerry, a man I debated over 30 times, is the alternative to George Bush, and that all Americans can come together under his leadership.
A lot of people say John Kerry's a great debater. You've gone against him. How do you think he'll stack up against President Bush?
Oh, I don't even think it'll be a contest.
Really?
I will tell you this. I'll tell you like I would say if we were in boxing, don't go to get your popcorn. I think John Kerry will be very, very early show who is the superior debater.
A lot of people, though, said that about George Bush against Ann Richards, and a lot of people said that he won those debates.
Well, I think Bush was underestimated. I don't think John Kerry is going to underestimate him. I think John Kerry is very studious, and I think John Kerry has truth and righteousness on his side. It's going to be hard for Bush to defend weapons that weren't there and 3 million jobs that are lost. He's got a record that he's going to have to defend that in many ways are indefensible.
Truth and righteousness on his side sounds like a reverend. Thanks very much, Reverend
Get ready
Sharpton.
for tomorrow night.
We'll be watching. All right. 360 next, defining John Kerry. The American people tell pollsters they're still largely in the dark about where he stands. We just said, can he get his message across? We'll take you left and right with Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson. Also tonight, 360 exclusive, Bono, rock star, political activist, joins us live. He's hitting Democratic and Republican conventions. Find out why this rock star is on a mission. And a little later, Vanessa Carey on her dad, on her stepmom, and the family's fight for the White House, live on 360.
Can inspiration change your mood? Can luxury feel intimate and stylish? Yes. Can a 340 horsepower Hemi make it move like this, look like this, cost less than you'd expect, and still turn heads easily? The totally new Chrysler 300. Chrysler, inspiration comes standard. Now qualified lessees can drive the Chrysler 300 for as low as $300 a month.
You're driving along. A car pulls in front of you. Another pulls alongside. When the guy up front stops short, you rear-end him, just like he wanted. It's called a swoop and squat. And fraud like this can add hundreds of dollars a year to your insurance bills. It's why Allstate has a dedicated fraud team to track down criminals. Fighting fraud helps keep your insurance affordable. That's Allstate stand. Are you in good hands?
Once again, more Americans trust CNN than any other news organization. Another reason why CNN is the most trusted name in news.
I've made some mistakes, like the meat smoker, the engine overhaul, and that satellite dish.
How about now?
No! But that's all behind me now. For one thing, we have Comcast digital cable. With Comcast, we get lots of choices in high def. Picture is unbelievable. I think that kind of makes up for all the other stuff. Honey?
That was then. This is Comcast.
Hi, I'm Liz Allison, host of Motoring Music City. Tune in each week to see all the great action from the Music City Motorplex, country music stars, and much more every Saturday morning on ESPN2 and every Wednesday evening on Comcast TV 75.
Finding the right car takes work, but VHIX.com does the work for you. VHIX compares vehicles. VHIX compiles features and options. VHIX even finds the car you want at a dealer near you. VHIX.com, roadmap to the automotive world.
CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
And you are live watching 360, the rock superstar Bono, about to join us live here in a few moments to talk about the issue he is pushing at this campaign as well as the Republican convention in just a few weeks. We'll talk to Bono live in just a few moments. We really ought to retire the old expression about politicians putting their feet in their mouths. The stakes these days aren't so much about what's said as about what's seen. It's the photo gone wrong that really hurts. We should be talking not about foot in mouth, but about head in helmet or head in shower cap looking thing. From CNN's Tom Foreman, here's a heaping helping of raw politics.
For Democrats, the last thing they wanted, the first thing this morning, was to wake up to a picture like this. NASA told him to wear the suit, but...
What do you think of this picture of John Kerry?
It's goofy. It's very, very goofy.
It's funny.
This is why campaigns scrutinize every public appearance. Dan Payne is a consultant who has worked with Kerry.
Campaigns worry every day about what's going to be on the front page of the newspapers.
He believes as long as candidates look comfortable, there is little risk. So Kerry rides motorcycles, plays hockey, makes a pitch, and even a dirt ball gets good coverage.
Other candidates just simply can't get outside the normal business suit. And when you see them out of the normal business suit, they look weird no matter what they're doing.
When Jimmy Carter was attacked in a boat by an angry aquatic rabbit, ridicule followed. Yeah. When Gerald Ford, the most athletic president, stumbled, he became a klutz. And of course, there was Michael Dukakis and the tank. Republicans are emailing that picture to reporters with Kerry's picture close by.
Why is that picture up there on the wall?
We thought it was a great picture.
The Democrats are retaliating by releasing odd pictures of George Bush and an unflattering videotape. How much difference does any of this make?
You know, it's a story for today.
But with the voting still months away, the race is already coming down to a photo finish. Tom Foreman, CNN, Boston.
A lingering problem for John Kerry. A poll shows many voters still don't know what he stands for. Let's step into the crossfire, talk about that and the photo with CNN's Tucker Carlson and Paul Begala. Guys, thanks for being with us. I got to start out with this photo. Paul, you've worked in campaigns for a long time. Who thought of this?
Somebody's got to prepare a resume. Okay, I think what happened is that they took him into NASA. NASA has clean rooms where you do have to not mess up the equipment by carrying in germs or dust or whatever. The problem is there was a photographer there.
Yeah, don't you say, okay, you're going to a clean room, you got to put on a hairnet, don't have a photographer there?
Yes. Yeah, I think it was a NASA photographer. The photos I saw in the paper had a little bitty, credit line that said NASA photographer. Well, here's the question. Who controls NASA? You mentioned your candidate, Chief Senator. Remember, NASA is controlled by the President of the United States. He's your opponent.
Wait a minute. So you're saying this is a
I think you're totally wrong. No, you're totally wrong. Halliburton controls NASA, and that's what it comes down to.
Don't let a camera in, period. I'm sure they were told, well, it's just a NASA camera. It may as well have been a CNN camera. I mean, it was a mistake. Now, I did ask, just before we walked out, I saw one of the rapid response guys, David Ginsburg, from the Kerry campaign. I said, how are you going to respond? He said, well, we were going to release a photograph of Bush serving in the National Guard, but we couldn't find one. So they right away stuck to knife.
Is this a whole lot of nothing, or is this actually a real issue, or just a sign that the reporters don't have anything to talk about?
Well, it's a sign of all three, but it depends how they play it. I mean, the response shouldn't be, Bush didn't serve in the National Guard as John Kerry was, getting shot in Vietnam. It ought to be, the candidate looks like a bit of a dork. He's got a human side to him. Look, when you dress up like a human sperm, people are going to criticize you and mock you. That's okay. You ought to laugh and just go forward. Of course, it's not a big deal, except to the extent they make it one and blame Halliburton for it.
My friend Ginsburg is kidding.
Let's talk about what may be a bigger issue, though. 54% of voters say they don't know where John Kerry stands on issues. At this point in the campaign, is that a big problem?
If it's this point next week, yes. That's what the convention is for. A lot of people in the media whine and complain about the conventions. They're wrong. These are important moments for the candidates to introduce themselves and their agendas. Kerry has the spotlight on Thursday night. There will be no excuse for having 54% of Americans next Tuesday saying they don't know what he stands for.
By having this sort of squeaky clean convention where there's no Bush bashing, there's not a lot of talk about the war in Iraq, does that make sense, Tucker, to you?
It makes sense in the short term. I think the problem, the Kerry people are betting they can win on the unpopularity of George W. Bush, and maybe they can, but he still needs a message, and I think he needs to articulate where we're going to go next in Iraq. The majority of people in this room are against the war. The logical conclusion from that is we ought to withdraw our troops fairly soon. Is John Kerry for that? And if not, why? I do think he needs to explain that.
But I think that's why they dial back on the Bush bashing, because they do know that Tucker's right, that they got to put out their own message and what they stand for. The question is, can he do it in a short bite that people can digest, the way my old boss Bill Clinton did here last week?
We'll see that Thursday night. Gentlemen, thanks very much. Tucker Carlson, Paul Begala, good to see you as always. We just had Al Sharpton, often described as a rock star. We have a real rock star just up ahead. 360 next, an exclusive interview with U2's Bono. There he is live. Rock superstar turned political activist making an appearance at the two political conventions tonight. Plus ahead, the Democratic Party's royal family, the Kennedys, their homecoming for the convention. All that ahead. Stay with us. Bono in a moment.
CNN's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is sponsored by Samsung. Excellence is within everything we create. Samsung Electronics. Log on to cnn.com/election for an insider's look at the 2004 Democratic National Convention.
One look is all it takes. The Samsung LCD television with picture-enhancing DNIE technology. It's hard to take your eyes off it. Experience the power within. Samsung.
Well, I was vacuuming at home one weekend with what I thought was a pretty good machine. And I was really amazed by the lousy suction. So I took the machine apart and discovered the problem. A small amount of dust, and the bags and filters were hopelessly clogged. So I thought I'd try and design something better. And a few thousand prototypes later, I had it. No bags, no clogged up filters, and the first vacuum that doesn't lose suction.
Hey, buddy, ready to go?
The right genes make all the difference. Introducing Genworth Financial, built on GE heritage, now creating our own legacy.
Hey, Dad, this computer would be perfect for school.
Yeah, but this one would be a lot easier for you to, bring home every weekend.
It's that time again, and Circuit City's the place for new school gear. Right now, save $250 on the ultimate dorm room notebook from HP with a widescreen display, AMD Athlon 64 processor, Windows XP Pro, and DVD burner. Just $1499.99 after mail-in rebates and instant savings. Only at Circuit City.
Inventing new drugs is one of the hardest things you could do. That's why I love it. We started working on a new heart medicine in 1982. When we started, my son was in diapers. When we finished, he was in high school. But our drug has given millions of people a new chance at life. And the big chunk of the profits are going to fund this project down the hall. They're working on Alzheimer's. Drug research may seem expensive. I say it's worth every penny. It ain't rocket science. To me, it's a lot more important.
GlaxoSmithKline. Today's medicines finance tomorrow's miracles.
It's a beautiful day.
And welcome back to 360 for more coverage of the second night of the Democratic National Convention here at the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts. If last night was about the party's past, two ex-presidents, a one-time vice president who very nearly became commander-in-chief himself, a former first lady, tonight is more about the Democratic present and about its future. Consider the names of some of the evening's featured speakers: Dean, Obama, Hines, Kerry, just to name a few. As lead singer of U2, Bono may be the biggest rock star on the planet. He's also a crusader in the war against AIDS. He has done an extraordinary amount of work on the issue. An estimated 38 million people, of course, are living with HIV, and every minute, 6 die from the disease. Bono calls AIDS the greatest challenge facing the world, a challenge he believes is being, well, ignored, you might say, at the Democratic and Republican conventions. That's why he is vowing to appear at both, as in his words, a, quote, nagging presence in sunglasses. True to form, Bono joins us now in sunglasses. Thanks for being with us. Not very shady, but it's good. It's good not to be shady here. You wrote that you wince when you think you're a rich Irish rock star, not even a rich American rock star, and you know that people wince when they hear sort of celebrities talking about issues. But even knowing that, you're still putting yourself out there talking about HIV, AIDS in Africa. Why?
Bring John Kerry, bring John Edwards into our lives, into our country, into our White House.
6,500 Africans dying every day of a preventable, treatable disease. It's not a cause, it's an emergency. I mean, look, here we are. It's an incredible carnival here going on. Every constituency wants their box checked, they want their issue mentioned. But this isn't an issue. This is an emergency, and it's not a constituency either, because the people dying every day of this preventable treatable disease, they don't vote in America. And yet their lives will be shaped by the stuff that comes out of this convention here in Boston and the one in New York.
What does it say about, about us, about the media, about politicians, that it takes a guy like you to get people to pay attention? I mean, frankly, just to criticize ourselves, we wouldn't be talking about HIV/AIDS in Africa if you weren't here tonight. What does that say about not only us, but about politicians? Because you're meeting, you're not just talking on the media about this, you're meeting behind the scenes with politicians around the world.
People are interested. This is Kerry's week here, and I have to tell you, he's been really, really good on this. He's the best brief guy on this. Got brilliant people working on it. 1999, he reached out across the aisle to Senator Bill Frist, and they brought in the first global AIDS bill. He has a history here. I want him to be banging on about it more than he is. Yes, I do. President Bush has done some extraordinary stuff in the last 2 years on Africa and AIDS. I want it to move faster. Yes, I do. But I also have to give some credit.
Well, it's interesting because you're in your commentaries you wrote an op-ed just recently. It was very well written. You're very nonpartisan. You're not throwing stones here at one party or the other. Why? Some people say, well, that might be more effective.
No, it's not more effective. The people that I represent. I'm an Irish rock star. Gagging me is quite hard. Keeping my mouth shut is quite hard. But I do so because I'm working for people whose voices aren't heard here and whose face you don't see. And you're talking about Malawi before we came on. You've been there. I've seen people queuing up to die, 3 in a bed there, 2 on top, 1 underneath. These are the people I work for. And we need Congress to pass these bills. And Senator Kerry's got an amazing $30 billion pledge on AIDS. It's fantastic. But the real boss in America is Congress. So we have to get Congress going, and we're going to need both sides of Congress. That's why I have to work both sides of the aisle, and the smart people, including John Kerry, and know why I'm not going to be out carrying one of his placards.
Do you think people care about this issue? You've been in Africa. I've spent a lot of time in Africa. I've been to those hospitals in Malawi where people are dying on plastic sheeting without even bed sheets, and the things you see are indescribable. Is it that people don't know about it, or they don't care?
No, people. If people know, as Harry Truman said, give Americans the facts. Give Americans the facts, and they'll do the right thing. We're about to do the right thing. What we've got to do is dramatize it better. This is not a burden. This is an extraordinary opportunity for America and Europe to re-describe ourselves in very dangerous times, very nervous times. To the people in the South, the people who live on less than $1 a day below the equator, those other 2/3, nearly, was a third of the entire planet living less than $1 a day. We have a chance to re-describe ourselves to them by responding to the AIDS emergency and to the extreme poverty where it breeds. These AIDS drugs are great advertisements for us. I told President Bush, paint them red, white, and blue. I told John Kerry, paint them red, white, and blue. They're the best advertisements for America right now you're going to get. Because where they go, they're going to change lives, transform communities.
I'm a little skeptical always of celebrities talking about issues and stuff, but your work is really extraordinary. You really are walking the walk, and I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate that. Thanks very much. Bono. All right, well, the big headliner tonight, Teresa Heinz Kerry, 360 Next, a look at the candidate's wife, a prospective first lady, typically outspoken, unlike most wives on the stump. We'll talk to her stepdaughter, Vanessa Kerry, plus campaigning for her dad, all about Vanessa Kerry, politics and family life. And Kerry and the Kennedys, powerful, so there's Vanessa Kerry right there, powerful support for the race in the White House. We'll talk about the patriarch of the Kennedy dynasty. All ahead, 360 Next.
I don't know what to do, Doc. I keep losing home loans to Ditech.com.
I see.
Customers apply online or by phone 24/7. They never come to the bank anymore. Even my mom got a loan from Ditech.
Very interesting. Need cash to pay off bills? Get a second mortgage with a no closing cost option from Ditech.com.
So what do you think, Doc?
I think you just lost another loan to Ditech.
Ditech.com. 1-800-71-FIXED.
Wherever you are, wherever you're going, T-Mobile Hotspot locations are with you throughout your day. Wi-Fi internet service for your laptop or PDA. T-Mobile. Get more.
Can inspiration change your mood? Can luxury feel intimate and stylish? Yes. Can a 340 horsepower Hemi make it move like this, look like this, cost less than you'd expect, and still turn heads easily? The totally new Chrysler 300. Chrysler, inspiration comes standard. Now qualified lessees can drive the Chrysler 300 for as low as $300 a month.
There's nowhere it can hide that we can't find it. Nowhere it can go that we can't get it out. That's why when water damage takes control of your life, we help you take it back. ServPro, like it never even happened.
Don't miss the movie that is mesmerizing audiences around the country. Rolling Stone calls Maria Full of Grace stunning, a powerhouse film. Catalina Sandino Moreno is riveting. And the New York Times says astonishing. You applaud every step of her scary lunge towards personal liberation.
Excuse me, can I see your passport, declaration card, and ticket, please?
Maria Full of Grace, rated R, starts Friday in additional theaters.
It's a land where liberty, freedom, and the human spirit have come together to write the history of a nation. And the United States Mint is proud to honor that history with this beautifully crafted proof set featuring the limited edition Westward Journey Nickel Series. 11 coins in all for only $22.95. To order your proof set and other fine products directly from the United States Mint, call 1-800-USA-MINT or visit www.usmint.gov.
Well, Democratic Party insiders are weighing in on the convention tonight. John Kerry's political soulmates. A National Journal poll has found most insiders believe Kerry has more in common with Bill Clinton, who got 20 votes. In a distant second, Al Gore with 9 votes. Ted Kennedy followed with 5 votes, and there were 4 votes for none of the above. That's National Journal insiders poll. That brings us to today's buzz. What do you think? Whom does John Kerry share the most in common with politically? Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Ted Kennedy, or none of the above? Log on to CNN.com/360. Cast your vote. We'll have results at the end of the program tonight. In about 3 hours, John Kerry's wife, Teresa, will get to speak her mind in a speech to the delegates gathered tonight inside the Fleet Center. She has already created convention buzz after speaking out Sunday night at a gathering, telling a Pittsburgh reporter to shove it. She says she has no regrets. Her style, blunt, outspoken, perhaps you might say not your typical political wife. Here's CNN's Judy Woodruff.
I speak from my heart, from my head, and from my soul.
And you never know what's going to come out. Her husband's aides can gnaw their nails, but Teresa Heinz Kerry won't be reined in.
I'm modern. I'm old-fashioned, but I'm modern. I mean, I don't have to wear stockings when it's hot.
Like another outspoken political wife,
oh, thank you all very much.
She gushes over her man on the stump.
Big-hearted, generous, can-do, optimistic, wanting to share.
But unlike Hillary Clinton, she would not try to tackle policy in a Kerry administration. She says she'll have plenty on her plate without it. Like doling out the ketchup money, since inheriting a philanthropic empire after the death of her first husband, the late Senator John Heinz.
I think my wife speaks her mind appropriately.
John Kerry says his wife won't be restrained, and many find her candor refreshing. Among her fans,
and she's very open and she's independent and she says what she thinks.
But to some Kerry supporters, Teresa's a distraction. Her Botox praising, cheating man maiming comments more damaging than endearing. They want to hear a little less from her.
Thank you, my husband, for coming.
To talk to you.
Coming up next on 360, a family reunion for the Kennedys, and we're going to talk live to Vanessa Kerry in just a moment here on 360. We'll be right back.
Head down, eye on the ball, bend your knees. Follow through.
Yellow Book, solving life's little problems. Yellow Book, not the other book. Call 1-800-YB-YELLOW.
George W. Bush, stories you haven't read, voices rarely heard, an inside look at the man who is president. CNN, August 29th.
Join us for the 12th annual Bridgestone Dancing in the District concert series Saturday nights at Riverfront Park. 12 weeks of amazing shows from 48 of your favorite bands. Gates open at 4, and tickets are only $5 in advance and $8 on the day of show.
All your weight, it falls on me, it brings me down.
Bridgestone Dancing in the District. You're not going to want to miss a single show. Produced by Mad Booking and Events.
Ever notice when you're ready to watch a movie, something comes up? There you go. That's why I have Comcast Digital Cable with Starz on demand. So I get over 100 great movies a month, like Kill Bill, Lost in Translation, Spy Kids 3, and I can start and stop them whenever I want. So now I can watch the whole movie without missing a thing.
Upgrade to Comcast Digital Cable and Starz for only $5.99 more a month. Call 1-877-COMCAST.
There's a place just up the road, nestled in the hills with spectacular views right on Center Hill Lake. Lakeside Resort is just what you need. Perfect for lake getaways, corporate seminars and retreats, family fun, golf, reunions, weddings, and anything for those who love the great outdoors. Lakeside's brand new lodge features 26 lakeside suites and can accommodate meetings up to 150. A lot to do or nothing to do. It's another beautiful day in paradise at Lakeside Resort Conference Center and Educational Complex. Online at lakesideresort.com.
Looking around for a practical, affordable car? Running over here, running over there? It would be a lot easier to go to VHIX.com. VHIX.com has everything you need to know. Models, packages, standard equipment, options, reviews, and prices all in one website. Making shopping for a practical car, well, a lot more practical. The all-new, easy-to-use VHIX.com. Roadmap to the automotive world.
Starting Monday, August 30th, the Republican Convention, live on CNN.
Yeah. Joining me now to talk more about Teresa Heinz Kerry and, of course, her dad's campaign, her stepdaughter, Vanessa Kerry. Thanks very much for being with us. Good to see you again.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
What do you think your stepmom's going to talk about? What are we going to hear from her tonight?
You're going to hear a lot of things. You're going to hear, I think, sort of the common vision that she and my father share and why they were together. You're going to hear about my father from her perspective, and you're going to hear about why this election matters.
There are a lot of reporters who say they love talking to your stepmom because they really never know what she's going to say, and that she really speaks her mind, which they say a lot of potential first ladies don't do. Has there ever been a time personally when she has spoken her mind to you that you kind of wish she hadn't?
Actually, Teresa's always been a very wonderful listener, and she's given me great advice through the years. I have been so grateful for her thoughts, and frankly for her honesty.
Do you think she gets a bad rap from some reporters? I mean, this focus on this thing that happened Sunday night, her telling somebody to shove it. Do you think is that just reporters with nothing else to report?
I think yes, actually. I'm a little frustrated and saddened that we are trying to make this the controversy. We have much bigger issues we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about what's happening in our economy and the jobs that have been lost. We need to be talking about health care for all Americans. We need to be talking about investing in education in our kids, talking about making this country safer and more respected in the world. And that's what this convention is about. It's a celebration of American values. It's talking about making us stronger at home, safer, in the world, and more respected, and that's what we need to be focusing on.
There's a Washington Post ABC News poll out that says some 54% of Americans say they don't really know where your dad stands on the issues. How big of a concern is that to you personally at this point?
None. Welcome to the convention in Boston.
That's what this is all about,
you're saying. This is our introduction. This race is young, and people have busy lives, and people have a lot of things that they're focusing on.
But tens of millions of dollars have been spent. I mean, more money than ever in a presidential history. And if at this point, 54% are saying they're kind of still not sure.
I completely disagree. I'm sorry.
No,
I really think I think we're at the beginning, and that's what this convention is about. Is a real introduction. And as life settles down, we get past Labor Day, people are going to be paying. I think people are going to have more time to be able to focus. It's the summer still,
it's just begun.
But I think this is just the beginning, and I think people are going to love what they see.
At the end of the week, what do you want? I mean, Paul Begala keeps saying, at the end of the week, Democrats have to have a one or two sentence description of who your dad is, what he's about. what do you want that 1 or 2 sentence description to be?
Well, I have to be fair. I think we got to be careful that we don't nip everything down to 1 or 2 sentences. And
sound bites.
I think sound bites have gone down from up to 30 seconds down to 15 in the last few years. So that matters to me.
Pathetic.
But
not in cable news, though. Cable, we let it go on forever.
That the man has enormous integrity, that he is extremely passionate, he is responsible, and that he is a very decisive and strong leader who will make this country better and really, I think, speak to an optimism that will help this country rise to new heights.
What has surprised you most? I mean, you've been on this campaign trail for a long time, and you've been in the trenches. What has surprised you most that you've learned that you maybe didn't anticipate?
One thing that I've been, one thing I think I've learned is the amazing. It's more that I've seen things about my father get reinforced. I mean, I was never involved in politics. I saw my dad, had quiet conversations, and I had a chance to, have 11 p.m. phone conversations with him and really talk about what he was thinking and feeling. And I've gotten to see in his core how much he cares about what's happening and how much he wants to see every American have opportunity. And I want to see, I think that for me, I've seen him take that to a bigger level. And it's been a reaffirmation. And I think this country's beginning to see that. They're learning about him, and they're going to see it a lot more.
We've now seen Jenna and Barbara Bush going on the campaign trail. You said you've been on the campaign trail. Chris Hines has been on the campaign trail. What do you think you bring to the campaign trail? What would the Kerry campaign not have if they didn't have you?
I would not put words in the mouth of the Kerry campaign.
Well, what do you add to? What do you bring to the table?
For us to spend time together. We get to laugh. We get to have a good time. But I think we get to be another set of eyes and ears. We have a chance to move in a way that my dad maybe can't. We get to talk to a lot of extra people, and then we all gather together. We sit around a table, and we share what we've seen and heard. And I think that's important.
Vanessa Kerry, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks for being with us. Have a great time this week. All right. Well, time now for the buzz. Earlier we asked you, whom does John Kerry share the most in common with politically? Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Ted Kennedy, or none of the above? More than 56,000 of you have voted. Majority say Ted Kennedy. He pulled in 35% of the vote, while 28% say none of the above. Certainly not a scientific poll, but it is your buzz, and we appreciate you voting. And finally tonight, taking sponsorship to the nth degree. Corporate underwriting is so common now that we really don't notice it anymore. Just take a look. This place, which replaced the old Boston Garden, ought to be called New Boston Garden. It isn't, though. It's called the Fleet Center instead, because Fleet paid a bundle for what are called naming rights. And why not? Lance Armstrong's got a sponsor. Sponsors pay for most of the television we watch. New York City is now talking about auctioning off naming rights to famous subway stops. It's the American way. So why not political parties? No question they could use the money. Fundraisers wouldn't have to turn our voters upside down every year to shake loose their pocket change, and we'd soon get used to it. Suppose the people you're looking at right now were members of, say, the Nike Democratic Party, or were Snapple or Xerox or Home Depot Democrats. Suppose in August in New York there's a gathering not just the plain old GOP, but of the GlaxoSmithKline GOP, or of the MRP, the Microsoft Republican Party. Viagra sponsors NASCAR races. Why not Fordocrats and Starbucklians? Never know. 360 next. Edward Kennedy, Howard Dean, Richard Gephardt, Ron Reagan, and Teresa Heinz Kerry step up to the podium. Special coverage of the Democratic National Convention. Back in a moment.
CNN's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is brought to you by your credit card companies.
My credit card company called me. They wanted to know if I charged 2 surfboards in Laguna Beach.
Credit card companies are on the alert for fraud.
They gave me a new card the next day.
Most credit card fraud is detected before the victim even knows about it.
I wasn't held responsible.
If we think it's not you, we'll contact you to check a purchase.
I guess it wasn't a wipeout.
Your credit card companies.
It's a land where liberty, freedom, and the human spirit have come together to write the history of a nation. And the United States Mint is proud to honor that history with this beautifully crafted proof set featuring the limited edition Westward Journey Nickel Series. 11 coins in all for only $22.95. To order your proof set and other fine products directly from the United States Mint, call 1-800-USA-MINT or visit www.usmint.gov.
Circuit City's the place to get your new DirecTV system. It's almost time for football, and right now from DirecTV, you'll get 4 free months of the Total Choice Premier with Local Channels package, a $360 value when you buy any DirecTV system and subscribe to 2004 NFL Sunday Ticket and the Total Choice Premier with Local Channels package. Don't miss a second of football this season. Come in for your new DirecTV system today at Circuit City.
Hey, buddy, ready to go?
The right genes make all the difference. Introducing Genworth Financial, built on GE heritage, now creating our own legacy.
On June 4th, my big brother was sentenced to 7 years in prison for a gun crime. That day, he sentenced me to 7 years without my best friend.
When you commit a gun crime, your family pays the price.
Closed captioning provided by Auric 8-pound upright vacuum.
Looking for a lightweight vacuum that's really powerful? Try my Auric XL free for 30 days. Nothing gets by an Auric.
Thanks for joining us on our special campaign coverage on 360. CNN's live coverage continues right now, however, with Wolf Blitzer, Judy Woodruff, and Jeff Greenfield standing by to take you through the next hours. Wolf?
Thanks very much, Anderson. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Lots happening here at the Democratic National Convention at the Fleet Center in Boston. This is what we're standing by for tonight. The agenda full with Ted Kennedy, a major speech from him. That's coming up shortly. It will be followed by Howard Dean. He's going to be speaking, the former Democratic presidential candidate. And then the keynote address, a young star in the Democratic Party, Barack Obama. He's running for the Senate from Illinois. Ron Reagan will be speaking during the 10 o'clock hour, speaking about stem cell research. And then the wife of John Kerry, Teresa Heinz Kerry, she'll be speaking during that hour as well. We'll have musical performances here at the Fleet Center. A lot happening. This night only just beginning.
America Votes 2004. This is CNN's live coverage of the Democratic National Convention.
Thanks very much for joining us. Day 2 of the Democratic National Convention. There will be 4 days altogether. Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer reporting with my colleagues Judy Woodruff and Jeff Greenfield. We're standing by the national anthem, but then Ted Kennedy, the senior senator from Massachusetts, will be speaking, a favorite among these Democrats.
He is. Ted Kennedy, beloved among these Democrats. He's known as Mr. Liberal by the Republicans, but he is John Kerry, senior senator from the state of Massachusetts. Wolf, what we're going to see tonight is Democrats trying to paint a fuller picture of who John Kerry is, what he stands for, what the issues are that are important to him and to this Democratic Party.
Wolf, I think we can say, like the strip in the old motels, that this convention has been sanitized for their protection, the protection of the Democrats. Ted Kennedy, famous for delivering red meat speeches at past conventions. An interesting question. Will he be delivering red meat or tofu? Wolf?
But whenever he speaks here, he's always well received.
The crowd loves him. Howard Dean, the man that fired up the Democrats, also speaking. Red meat or tofu? That's what I'm looking for, Wolf.
All right, the first item, though, on the agenda is the national anthem. In fact, the national anthem going to be coming now from Arizona. We're going to stand up for the national anthem as everyone else is standing up here. National anthem will be sung by Michael Ennis and Alicia Childs, Native Americans from Arizona.
ta chân một xin nhớ cơ trăm ngày chợt sẽ xa chú trong hoàng chủ một sẽ xuống mà ăn có cơ trên áo tam ăn có cơ cho chờ cái chủ mang gia na gia tuan trôi ang hoa spiao ý đạo thực ấy hoa chân mơ ta ta hu hư giat ma gia áp tan chớ sinh sớm mà chợt cha kỳ.
Just want to be precise, Michael Ennis and Alicia Childs from the traditional Tohono O'odham Nation in Arizona singing in the traditional language of this Native American group. Jeff Greenfield, how many times have you heard the national anthem sung, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Tohono O'odham?
Actually, possibly in 1968 at a Navajo reservation, but that's the only time I can think of. You can see already what the Democratic Party is doing. The coat of many colors, all united behind the theme of patriotism. And if I may make one more point, the stretch of this convention is amazing. You realize when Ted Kennedy entered the Senate, tonight's keynote speaker, Barack Obama, was 15 months old. There's a range from past and present, and they hope the future here tonight, Wolf.
Teddy Kennedy, we're getting ready for this senator to speak. The Kennedy legacy, very, very felt, especially here in Boston.
There's no legacy in this country, really, Wolf, unless maybe it's the Bush family legacy, like the Kennedy legacy. A former president shot down, lost his life at the very height of his career. A brother, Bobby Kennedy, assassinated 5 years later. Teddy Kennedy went on to carry the torch. But what Teddy Kennedy has really become is one of the most one of the senators in this country most celebrated for being able to get work done in the United States.
How important was Senator Kennedy, Jeff, in getting the nomination for John Kerry?
Critical. He gave John Kerry at a critical part in this campaign his chief of staff, Mary Beth Kale, his campaign manager, who turned the campaign around. In Iowa, where Democrats are very liberal, Ted Kennedy worked tirelessly on his behalf. And what's interesting about that was there were periods in the past when JFK, John Forbes Kerry, and EMK, Ted Kennedy, were not the best of colleagues. Those bumps cleared up about 10 years ago, and I think without Ted Kennedy, John Kerry wouldn't be here tonight. And remember also, if you're talking about legacy, the first convention Ted Kennedy addressed that I remember was 1968, paying tribute to his fallen brother. The other side of that legacy, we also know it's 35 years almost to the day that Ted Kennedy had to go on TV and explain Chappaquiddick to the people of Massachusetts, which probably kept him from the White House.
All right, let's go to the Massachusetts delegation. Our correspondent John King is there. You've spent a lot of time covering Senator Kennedy. This is going to be an important speech for him, John.
An important speech for Senator Kennedy, Wolf, an important night for the Massachusetts delegation. They get to double dip, if you will. Tonight they hear from their senior senator as they prepare to nominate their junior senator for president. As Jeff just noted, Senator Kennedy, once a candidate for president, one had aspirations for the White House, now a critical advisor, if you will, to the Kerry campaign. Senator Kennedy says he will play any role as possible in the fall campaign. Remember, months ago, he angered many Democrats, worked with President Bush on education, worked for a while with President Bush on Medicare. Some of his fellow liberals did not like that. Senator Kennedy has no apologies, but he does say he has a sour taste, if you will, for that experience. He says he will now work vigorously to defeat President Bush. And we should also note Senator Kennedy, of course, one of the prominent liberals, perhaps the premier liberal now in the party, rivaled maybe by Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton right now. It was 24 years ago. He gave his own famous speech to the Democratic National Convention in which he said his hopes for the presidencies had passed. He had failed to wrestle the nomination from President Carter in 1980. The dream will never die was the ending line, the closing line of Senator Kennedy's speech back then, 24 years ago. So the Massachusetts delegation will be roused tonight. And again, look for Senator Kennedy to play a very prominent role in the fall campaign, and look for the Bush campaign to try to make him an issue as well. The joke in the Bush campaign is that Senator Kennedy is the conservative senator from Massachusetts, and that John Kerry is even more liberal.
And Judy, there is some truth to that. If you take a look at the National Journal, in their rankings, they do have Senator Kerry more liberal than Senator Kennedy.
That's right. They have not always agreed. In fact, Wolf, most famously, they disagreed over the war in Iraq. John Kerry voted with George W. Bush to authorize the use of force in Iraq. Senator Ted Kennedy argued vigorously against it. In fact, he disagreed with his own son, the congressman from the state of Rhode Island. But John Kerry and Ted Kennedy over the years have pretty much agreed on the larger issues of the day. They have parted ways at some points, but I think Iraq is emblematic of the fact that these are not two liberals who see eye to eye.
Jeff, he's an asset in the Democratic Party among the base, but a liability potentially nationally.
He is certainly not the voice of centrist moderate Democrats. He is the last liberal lion. He's been in the Senate longer than anyone except Robert Byrd, I believe. He's also the fellow who in 1988 gave that speech attacking the first George Bush, the famous "Where was George" speech. And I'm very curious to see whether the intensity of liberal anger toward George W. Bush is going to be challenged through Ted Kennedy tonight, or whether it will be muted in the service of a calmer Democratic Party.
Everybody's been told, Judy, to make sure their speeches, and they've been pretty much vetted by the Kerry Edwards campaign. Everybody's been told to tone it down a bit.
Well, the one speech that we're all looking forward to hearing, and we're looking forward to hearing all of them, but Teresa Heinz Kerry, this is a woman who we'll talk about her later. She's been outspoken on so many occasions. Tonight, though, we are told she has a text. She'll be following that text. But it is fair to say, Wolf, the Democrats have gotten better at this, of sticking to the party line. It's something we used to say the Republicans were very good at. The Democrats have taken a page from the Republicans' playbook. This is a convention. We talked about it last night. They are unified. They're on time for a change. Hello, it's Democrats.
That'll change, don't worry. If we know the Democrats. John King, I want to go back to you. You're down in the Massachusetts delegation. Give us a little flavor there.
Well, Wolf, the late Speaker Tip O'Neill used to say all politics is local. There were no placards on the floor last night when the former Vice President Al Gore spoke. He was the nominee just 4 years ago. No placards spread out across the floor when the former President of the United States, Bill Clinton, spoke. He, of course, a very popular figure of the party. Well, look at this. Ted Kennedy has a friend in John Kerry, not only here in the Massachusetts delegation, but across the floor now. The whips are spreading for the first time placards to greet a primetime speaker. Again, not for Al Gore, not for Bill Clinton. Teddy Kennedy has a friend in the nominee. Not a bad thing to have.
All right, John, we'll get back to you. You know, Jeff, months ago, I was told, a few of us were told, by important Democrats who were involved in putting this convention together, that Senator Kennedy would speak Tuesday during the 8 o'clock hour because that's when he wanted to speak. That's the kind of power that he has.
Right. I also think that is true. Also, Ted Kennedy has wanted for decades to bring the Democratic Party convention to Boston. Maybe he had dreamt at one point of bringing it to Boston when he, rather than his junior senator, got nominated. By the way, when was the last time we had a convention where a Kennedy and a Ron Reagan spoke on the same night to the same party? Talk about unprecedented moment.
Can you give us the answer to that?
Yeah, never.
Ron Reagan will be speaking at 10 o'clock. This was a relatively late edition, but I think he can thank his mother for the decision for him to come here tonight.
That's right. I think if Nancy Reagan had felt strongly enough about it, Wolf, he wouldn't be here. But he was invited to speak. He wanted to speak. But there's no doubt in my mind that Nancy Reagan, who feels very strongly about embryonic stem cell research, and that's going to be the principal theme of Ronald Prescott Reagan's remarks tonight, the son of the late president. If she had felt that it was wrong, he wouldn't be here. But she is enough effective in her blessing. That's why he's here. But he has said he's not here to bash Bush.
All right, Senator Kennedy has just been introduced. He's walking out onto the podium right now. Let's watch this reception that he receives.
Thank you, Bob Caro. Thank you, Bob Caro. Thank you, Bob Caro, for that generous introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bob Caro, for your generous introduction. And with the continuing support of the people of Massachusetts, I intend to stay in this job until I get the hang of it. To my fellow delegates and my fellow Democrats, I've waited a very, very long time to say this. Welcome to my hometown. Welcome to my hometown. To Americans everywhere whose aspirations have been kindled anew by this campaign, we who convene here this evening in liberty's cradle say, welcome home. Welcome home for the ideals born in Boston and strengthened by centuries of service and sacrifice. Ideals like freedom and equality and opportunity and fairness and common decency for all. Ideals that all Americans yearn to reclaim. And make no mistake, come November, reclaim them we shall by making John Kerry President of the United States. These fundamental ideals light the fire in each of us to do all we can, and then more, to see that next January, John Kerry has a nice new home at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It fills me with pride to have our Democratic convention in this city, this hallowed ground that gave birth to these enduring American ideals. Like my grandfather and my brother before me, I have been privileged to serve this place where every street is history's home. The old North Church, where lanterns signaled Paul Revere. The old State House, where John Adams said independence was born. The Golden Steps, where waves of new immigrants entered this new land of liberty and opportunity, including all 8 of my own great-grandparents from Ireland. Here in New England, we love our history, and like all Americans, we learn from it. We breathe it deep because it sustains us, it guides us, it inspires us. It was no accident that Massachusetts was founded as a commonwealth, a place where authority begins not to a single ruler, but to the people themselves, joined together for the common good. The old system was based on inequality. Loyalty was demanded, never earned. Leaders ruled by fear, by force, by special favors for the few. Under the old unequal system, the quality of your connections mattered more than the content of your character. Your voices were not heard. Your concerns did not matter. Your votes did not count. The colonists knew they could do better, just as we know we can do better today, but only if we all work together. Only if we all reach out together. Only if we all come together for the common good. Now it is for us, the patriots of this new century, to do that, to shape our own better future and make it worthy of our past, to choose a leader worthy of our country, and that leader is John Kerry. Today, more than 2 centuries after the embattled farmers stood and fired the shirt round the world, the ideals of our founders still resonate across the globe. young people in other lands, inspired by the liberty we cherish, linked arms and sang, "We shall overcome." When the Berlin Wall fell, when apartheid ended in South Africa, and when the courageous protests took place in Tiananmen Square. The goals of the American people are every bit as high as they were more than 200 years ago. If America is failing to reach them today, it's not because our ideals need replacing, it's because our president needs replacing. We bear no ill will. We bear no ill will towards our opponents. In fact, we'd be happy to have them over for a polite little tea party. I know just the place, right down the road in Boston Harbor. For today, like the brave and visionary men and women before us, we are determined to change our government. I've served for many years in the Senate and have seen many elections, but there have been none more urgent and more important than this one. Never before have I seen a contrast so sharp or consequences so profound as in the choice we will make for president in 2004. So much of the progress we once achieved has been turned back. So much of the goodwill America once enjoyed in the world has been lost. But we are a hopeful nation, and our values and our optimism are still burning bright. Those same values and optimism are what brought our forebears across a harsh ocean and sustained them through many brutal winters, that inspired patriots from John Adams to John Kennedy to John Kerry. And their strong belief that America's best days are still ahead. There's a reason why this land was called the American experiment. If dedication to the common good were hardwired into human nature, we would never have had a need for a revolution. If each of us cared about the public interest, we wouldn't have had the excesses of Enron. We wouldn't have had the abuses of Halliburton. And Vice President Cheney would be retired to an undisclosed location. Soon, thanks to John Kerry and John Edwards, he'll have ample time to do just that. Our country demands a great deal from us, and we rightfully demand a great deal from our leaders. America is a compact, a bargain, a contract. It says that all of us are connected. Our fates are intertwined. 50 states, one nation. Our Constitution binds us together. Yet in our own time, there are those who seek to divide us. One community against another. Urban against rural. City against suburb. Whites against blacks. Men against women. Straights against gays. Americans against Americans. In these challenging times for our country, in these fateful times for the world, America needs a genuine uniter, not a divider who only claims to be a uniter. have seen how they rule. They divide and try to conquer. They know the power of the people is weakened when our house is divided. They believe they can't win unless the rest of us lose. We reject that shameful view. The Democratic Party has a different idea. We believe that all of us can win. We believe we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And when we say all, we mean all. Today, in this global age, our goal of the common good extends far beyond America's borders. As President Kennedy said in 1963, in his quest for restraint in nuclear arms, we can help make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. Interdependence defines our world. For all our might and for all our wealth, we know we are only as strong as the bonds we share with others. The dangers of terrorism and nuclear proliferation, our greatest challenges, are shared by all nations. And our greatest opportunities, from achieving lasting peace and security, to building a more prosperous society, to ending the ravages of disease and the despairs of poverty, can all be seized, but only if the world works together and only if America helps to lead in the right direction. And John Kerry has the skill, the judgment, and the experience to lead us on that great journey. The eyes of the world were on us, and the hearts of the world were with us after September 11th, until this administration broke that trust. We should have honored, not ignored, the pledges that we made. We should have strengthened, not scorned, the alliances that won 2 world wars and the Cold War. Most of all, we should have honored the principle, so fundamental, that our nation's founders placed it in the very first sentence of the Declaration of Independence, that America must give a decent respect to the opinions of mankind. We failed to do that in Iraq. And more than 900 of our servicemen and women have already paid the ultimate price. Nearly 6,000 have been wounded in this misguided war. The administration has alienated longtime allies. Instead of making America more secure, they have made us less so. They have made it harder to win the real war on terrorism and the war against Al-Qaeda. And none of this had to happen. How could any president have possibly squandered the enormous goodwill that flowed to America from across the world after September 11th? Most of the world still knows what we can be, but only we can be. And they want us to be that nation again. America must be a light to the world, and under John Kerry and John Edwards, that's what America will be. We need a president. We need a president who will bind up the nation's wounds. We need a president who will be a symbol of respect in a world yearning to be at peace again. We need John Kerry as our president. Time and again in America's history, we as Democrats have offered new hope of a stronger, fairer, more prosperous future for all our people. A society that feeds the hungry, shelters the homeless, cares for the sick, so that none must walk alone. And when the elderly face poverty and sickness that threaten their golden years, we created Social Security and Medicare. And when the voices of many citizens went unheard and their lives were blighted by bigotry, we fought for equality and justice and for civil rights and voting rights and rights for women and for the cause of Americans with disabilities. We fought for those. And when higher education was beyond the reach of veterans returning home from the war, we created the GI Bill of Rights, and we have continued ever since to make college more affordable for millions more Americans. And when men and women needed protection in the workplace, we demanded safe conditions for their jobs. We insisted on the right to higher pay for working overtime, and we guaranteed the right to form a union. And we pledge a fair minimum wage so that no one in America who works for a living should have to live in poverty. Only leaders who know this history and abide by the ideals that shaped it deserve to be trusted with our nation's future. Sometimes in recent years, they have fooled us with their rhetoric, but we will not let them fool us twice. In the White House, inscribed on a plaque above the fireplace in the state dining room, is a prayer, a simple but powerful prayer of John Adams, the first president to live in that great house. It reads, "I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but the honest and wise ever rule under this roof." In November, we will make those words ring true again. All of us who know John Kerry know that he's a fitting heir to these ideals. I've known John Kerry for 3 decades. I've known him as a soldier, as a peacemaker, as a prosecutor, as a senator, and as a friend. And in every role, he has shown his strengths. He was the right man for every tough task, and he is the right leader for this time in our history. John is a war hero who understands that America's strength comes from many sources, especially the power of our ideas. He knows that a true leader inspires hope and vanquishes fear. This administration does neither. Instead, it brings fear. Fear of rising costs for health care and for college. Fear of higher unemployment and lesser pay. Fear for the future of Social Security and Medicare. Fear of greater bigotry. Fear of pollution stain on our magnificent natural heritage. Fear of 4 more years of dreams denied and promises unfilled and progress rolled back. In the depths of the Depression, Franklin Roosevelt inspired the nation when he said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Today we say, the only thing we have to fear is 4 more years of George Bush. John Kerry offers hope. John Kerry offers hope, not fear. The hope of real victory against terrorism and true security at home. of good health care for all Americans, of Social Security that is always there for the elderly, of schools that open golden doors of opportunity for all our children, of an economy that works for everyone. That's the kind of America we'll have with John Kerry in the White House. And the roots of that America are planted deep in New England soil. Across this region are burial grounds. Many so humble, you find them without intending to. You're in a town like Concord, Massachusetts, or Hancock, New Hampshire. You're visiting the old church there, and behind the chapel you find a small plot. Simple stones bearing simple markers. The markers say War of 1776. They do not ask for attention, but they command it all the same. These are the patriots who won our freedom. These are the first Americans who enlisted in a fight for something larger than themselves, for a shared faith in the future, for a nation that was alive in their hearts, but not yet part of their world. They and their fellow patriots won their battle. But the larger battle for freedom and justice and equality and opportunity is our battle too. And it's never fully won. Each new generation has to take up the cause, sometimes with weapons in hand, sometimes armed, only with faith and hope, like the marches in Birmingham and Selma 4 decades ago. Sometimes the fight is waged in Congress or the courts, sometimes on foreign shores, like the battle that called one of my brothers to war in the Pacific and another to die in Europe. Now it is our turn to take up the cause. Our struggle is not with some monarch named George who inherited the crown, although it often seems that way. Our struggle is with the politics of fear and favoritism in our own time, in our own country. Our struggle, like so many others before, is with those who put their own narrow interest ahead of the public interest. We hear echoes of past battles in the quiet whisper of the sweetheart deal, in the hushed promise of a better break for the better connected. We hear them in the cries of the false patriots who bully dissenters into silence and submission. These are familiar fights. We fought and we won them before. And with John Kerry and John Edwards leading us, we will win them again and again and again and make America stronger at home and respected once more in the world. For centuries, kings ruled by what they claimed was divine right. They could not be questioned. They could not be challenged. The people's fate was not their own. But today, because of the surpassing wisdom of our founders, the constant courage of the patriots of the past, and the shared sacrifice of generations of Americans who kept the faith, the power of America still rests securely in citizens' hands. In our hands. True to our highest and noblest ideals, we intend to use that power. We will use it wisely and well. We will use it in the poet's words, my brothers loved, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. We will use it to heal, to build, to hope, and to dream again. And in doing so, we will truly make our country once more America the Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Senator Edward Kennedy of Massachusetts giving some red meat to these Democratic delegates who have come to the Fleet Center here in Boston. The Kennedy clan up on the stage right now celebrating this 24-minute speech by the senior senator from Massachusetts. He said, among other things, Judy, we say the only thing we have to fear is 4 more years of George Bush. That's precisely what the people in this building wanted to hear.
Well, make no mistake about it, he quoted poetry, he cited John Adams' lines in the White House. This was tough language against this president. He talked about fear. He talked about they fooled us with their rhetoric, but we won't let them fool us again. He said, we want a president who is going to be honest and wise, suggesting this president is not honest and not wise. Time and again, he pushed in the, I won't say it was a sword, but it was a scalpel. I think he did the job.
It was about one of the toughest speeches so far at this convention, Jeff. Among other things, he also said Vice President Cheney would be retired to an undisclosed location if the Republicans lose.
You guys are in a different environment. I remember when Ted Kennedy let it rip. I'd say this was about 2 ounces of red meat and 10 ounces of tofu. He had to give them something to cheer about because these delegates are waiting to be able to vent their feelings. But compared to the Kennedy speeches of old...
and compared to what we heard last night.
It's the first time George Bush's name has been mentioned prominently by anyone. I agree, that's the job Ted Kennedy had. And you'll notice the band was playing Still the One. This is a man who stretches back decades, but I guess I'm an old-fashioned retired speechwriter, but for me, if this was the toughest speech we hear tonight, it's going to be a very gentle convention.
All right, let's bring in our senior political analyst, Bill Schneider. You watched the speech, you listened carefully. It was relatively speaking tough for this convention.
Yeah, it was. But let me point something out to you. Did you see or did you notice who was in the stands? One of the honored guests at this convention is Maria Shriver. She is a Kennedy. She will also be an honored guest at the Republican convention next month because her husband is the governor of California, a Republican who will address the Republican convention, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. She's one of the few people who's going to be an honored guest at the Democratic and the Republican convention. So if Ronald Reagan is going to speak to this convention, Arnold Schwarzenegger, with ties to the Kennedys, will address the Republicans.
We saw Maria Shriver sitting here with her mother, Eunice Shriver. Maria Shriver, a well-known Democrat, even though her husband, the governor of California, a well-known Republican. CNN's Aaron Brown is watching and listening as well. Aaron?
Well, first of all, there's seen enough Kennedys in the room to make up a small states delegation. Carlos Watson, one of our political analysts, is with us here in New York. It occurs to me that we see it is a different speech you watch on television than you hear in the hall itself.
Very much so. And what I thought was interesting about this speech was that there weren't the kind of sound bites that you got out of Al Gore's speech. I don't think you'll see sound bites from this speech on the 11 o'clock news in Iowa and Florida and other places.
Was this a speech designed to persuade independents or moderate Republicans in Iowa and Minnesota and Oregon, or was this a speech for Democrats to inspire Democrats?
I think it was a speech within the hall, but there were two things he raised, Aaron, that I think you'll hear more about later on in the campaign. Minimum wage, which is an opportunity to turn out voters who last time stayed home, particularly poor voters, and two, Enron and Halliburton. This whole issue of corporate malfeasance that Democrats believe is an issue they can run against the president on is an issue I think you'll hear a lot more in ads and in speeches once they leave the convention.
And one more before we throw it back to the hall. I thought I heard another theme. For the second night in a row, they talked about the Republicans' need to divide us. Bill Clinton said it yesterday. Ted Kennedy said it today. It's an effort to turn a Republican issue back on them.
You know whose hands I see on this? I see Bill Clinton. Remember in '96, Clinton took Bob Dole's theme of A Bridge to the Past and turned it into his own theme, A Bridge to the Future. And you see Clinton again and again in a number of places turning things around. Yesterday, he kind of tried to destigmatize Massachusetts by talking about John Adams, John Kennedy, and John Kerry. He used the words patriot, as in New England patriots. And once again, with the idea that you shared, it's another opportunity, I think, that Clinton first raised yesterday.
So Ted Kennedy has done his speech, Wolf, and Jeff, I'm inclined to agree with you. If that's red meat, that's not even a Big Mac yet.
All right, Aaron Brown and Carlos Watson will be checking back with you. Let's check back with our senior White House correspondent, John King. He's on the floor in Massachusetts. You've been a Kennedy watcher, John, for a long time as well.
Well, Wolf, they love the speech down here in the Massachusetts delegation. One of the lines they loved most, one of the themes, was the senator's harsh criticism of the war in Iraq. I heard Jeff say just a couple ounces of red meat, but the harshest criticism of the war in Iraq, Senator Kennedy saying more than 900 servicemen dead. He called it misguided. That is a theme they love here in the Democratic floor, but look for the Republicans to say very quickly that Ted Kennedy is also taking issue with John Kerry and John Edwards, because in the United States Senate, both of them voted to give the president the power to wage that war.
All right, John King in Massachusetts. John, we'll be getting back to you as well. Still many important speakers this evening, including Howard Dean, the former governor of Vermont, the outspoken former presidential candidate. He's coming up later this hour. And after that, Ron Reagan will be speaking about stem cell research, specifically embryonic stem cell research, with the blessings of his mother, of course. And later, Teresa Heinz Kerry will be speaking much more coverage from the Democratic National Convention in Boston. We'll be right back.
The 1960 Democratic Convention, the first in Los Angeles, was one of the most suspenseful. John F. Kennedy won on the first ballot, but it took Wyoming, the last state, to put him over the top. Kennedy went on to choose Lyndon Johnson, his chief rival for vice president, and win in the fall.
CNN's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is sponsored by Chrysler. Inspiration comes standard. Log on to cnn.com/election for an insider's look at the 2004 Democratic National Convention.
How inspiring can a minivan be? Can it give you seats when you need them? And space when you don't? Yes. Introducing the all-new Chrysler Town & Country. The only minivan with stow-and-go seating and storage. Chrysler. Inspiration comes standard.
Want more? Get more. At the Chrysler Summer Sales Drive, get $1,000 bonus cash on Town & Country for a combined cash allowance of $2,000.
One look is all it takes. The Samsung LCD television with picture-enhancing DNI-E technology. It's hard to take your eyes off it. Experience the power within. Samsung.
Very nice.
Like all light beers, it's low in carbs. Unlike any other light beer, it's got the great taste of Bud Light. What we have here is a failure to compromise. Fresh, smooth, real. It's all here.
I think other people look at my success in a way that they said, man, how'd you do it? If you want the opportunity to move up in this organization, it's there for you. From loading trucks to now being the director of operations of 10 Sam's Clubs. I've been able to do things in my life and have things in my life that I didn't think were possible. I kind of think Walmart and Sam's Club will give you the opportunity to better your lifestyle. That's what it's about. You have a good job, a good family, a good life, and life's good. My name is Steven. I've been with Sam's Club for 15 years.
Need cash? Don't charge it on your credit cards. Get a home equity loan with a no closing cost option from Ditech.com. Use the cash to consolidate bills and lower your monthly payments. Ditech.com. Apply online or call 1-800-DITECH-1.
Welcome back to the Democratic National Convention at the Fleet Center here in Boston. We're continuing our coverage, a long night ahead, including several major speakers. We're waiting to hear from Howard Dean coming up later this hour. Joining us now here on the set, on the floor of the Democratic Convention, the governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, who also happens to be the chairman of this convention. Is it going the way you wanted it to go?
Yes, we had a great first day. A lot of energy, staying positive, great speeches by President Clinton, by Senator Clinton, Al Gore, Jimmy Carter. We're building. The strategy is to build towards Senator Kerry's speech on Thursday, and our objective is to show the human side, the personal side, the Vietnam War record, the experience, the fact that Senator Kerry is ready to be president.
But, Governor, don't you have an enormous hill to climb? Yet another poll out today, I believe Washington Post, ABC News, saying in effect that when people are asked who do they think is stronger in the war on terror, who's a stronger leader, almost by 3-1, they prefer President Bush. How does John Kerry turn that around in a matter of a few days?
Well, it's still early. The American people aren't focusing until convention time. I think what Senator Kerry wants to do on terrorism is be bipartisan. He has said that he wants to fix the problem, fix the intelligence system, concentrate on Al-Qaeda instead of Iraq, make sure we have a counterterrorism center. And I think the whole message here is that we have solutions, that we want to stay positive, that we're not going to, yes, there'll be some Bush bashing. You heard a little bit from Senator Kennedy, but that we're exactly where we want to be. The polls
Governor, you say the American public is not focusing. That your campaign has already spent, $80 million trying to introduce John Kerry to the American public, and a lot of those people are not yet ready, committed.
We are, at this point, the highest poll ratings of any challenger against an incumbent president in history. We're slightly ahead. Most of the average has challengers behind about 16 points at this time. So we're where we want to be. We're trying to get that 10% that we say is undecided, moving in various directions, younger voters, independent voters. And this convention is geared to go after them, but also to energize our delegates. These are the people that are going to get us our votes, that'll do the voter mobilization, voter registration, a lot of the work that we need to get that Democratic base out, and this is what's happening here.
Let's talk electoral politics. Your state went for Al Gore by 366 votes.
Yes.
It's a battleground state. Nevada's a battleground state, Arizona, and people are saying the Latino vote may be the difference. Is it, and if so, is cultural conservatism your biggest hurdle to getting the Latino vote the size you need it to be?
Well, Jeff, we're going to win the Latino vote. The issue is, will the Republicans who got 35% 4 years ago get 40%? We say they can't because their policies are negative towards Latinos. What we see is a very strong concentration that we're going to give basically in 4 states, in Arizona, and New Mexico, and Nevada, and Colorado, all with burgeoning Latino populations. These are battleground states with a few votes either way. In the last election, we're going to concentrate there, but we're going to appeal to Latinos not on just immigration and civil rights issues, but issues relating to jobs and education and entrepreneurship, home ownership.
I'm going to ask you, Governor, to stand by for a moment. I want to bring in one of our contributors, Victoria Clark. Tori Clark, the former Pentagon spokeswoman, a good Republican, worked for President Bush 4 years ago. What do you make of what the governor is saying, that the Hispanic vote, the Latino vote, is going to be there for the Democrats despite an enormous outreach program by the Republicans?
Boy, well, I hope the governor's right that it's about home ownership and entrepreneurship and providing a great education for your kids, because then the Republicans should do better than ever with the Latino vote. I was struck by something he said, though. He said if the goal of the year is to get 10%, if it's to get that 10% in the middle, then Senator Kennedy didn't get them there tonight. It was a real walk down memory lane, and that's just not what that 10% in the middle is looking for.
Was there I want you to explain exactly what you mean, Tori, when you say that 10%. Was he too liberal? Was he too tough, too negative? Is that what you're suggesting, to appeal to that undecided bloc?
What I'm suggesting is that undecided bloc, like a lot of people in this country, want to be looking forward and saying, okay, we're finding ourselves in a very dangerous world. Let's figure out the right way to deal with that. We're finding ourselves in a world in which the very fundamentals of our economy are changing. How do we deal with that? Bringing FDR into the picture, with all due respect to FDR, doesn't get those people.
All right, I'm going to let Governor Richardson respond to that. Governor Richardson, was it too liberal? Was it too historic, if you will?
This is Ted Kennedy. The Kennedys are part of the Democratic Party. This is Ted Kennedy City, Boston. This is who Ted Kennedy is. He rallies the base. The Democratic Party is not like the Republican Party. We have a wide net. We have moderates, conservatives, progressives. We have people from all around the country. Look at the diversity of this delegates. 40% minority, 52% women and minorities. This is America. So we're not, we don't want to be negative. Tori is very, very good and all that, but we want to talk positive, and this is what Congressman Gephardt is doing. Missouri, a battleground state. he was a presidential candidate. We got a whole variety in their party. In the Republican Party, they can't even get their conservatives to speak.
All right, let's. There will be a few conservatives speaking at Madison Square Garden, including Dick Cheney. I believe he will speak there, as well as President Bush will be speaking. Two good conservatives right there. Donna Brazil, another one of our contributors, the former campaign manager for the Gore Lieberman campaign 4 years ago. Give us your assessment of this Kennedy performance and what's happening so far overall at this convention, Donna.
Well, first of all, I think the only history that Ted Kennedy committed to tonight was the history of this great city and this wonderful state where it all began for our nation. He tied that to where John Kerry intends to take the country, and I think he did a marvelous job. Look, I think the Democrats are just unified. I've been to 7 state delegation parties early in the morning. Democrats are waking up at 6 o'clock. They're going to bed at 2. They're getting 3 hours of sleep, and you know what? They're ready to go out and defend John Kerry's values and to share his vision with the American people.
Donna, what's the major lesson you want these Democrats to learn from the mistakes of the Gore campaign 4 years ago?
Oh, don't take any state for granted. I think Governor Richardson is absolutely right. We have new territory to conquer, so to speak. Those western states are ripe and fertile for a strong Democratic message. And you're seeing one Democrat that's about to be introduced now, Tom Daschle out in South Dakota. We have a great wealth of candidates coming out of those western states, and I think that Carrie Etler-Stickens will do very well out there.
All right, Donna, stand by. Governor Richardson, Tom Daschle, the Democratic leader in the Senate, is about to speak. He's got his own problems. He might not even get reelected in South Dakota.
He'll get reelected, and what's going to win it for him is his record as a leader. He's the minority leader who can deliver for South Dakota. The Native American vote has won it for Democrats in South Dakota before, and I believe it'll do it again. Yes, it's going to be close because of the percentage and registration, but what Democrats have this year is intensity, the intensity of our Democratic voters to win the White House back, to defeat the president. That's going to help a lot of candidates like Tom Daschle.
Jeff, as you've been studying the intensity factor as well, getting out the vote, registering, actually delivering the message. They've raised a lot of money, the Democrats, the Republicans have as well. How intense are both parties' bases right now?
I think this is really unprecedented. The level of interest at this stage in the campaign is measurably higher. Normally, even when people lie, because more people say they're going to vote than vote, if they're lying at a much higher level. In fact, that's what I wanted to briefly ask you about, Governor. It must, in some sense, drive you guys on both sides a little nuts to see how balanced these numbers are, to see that, you know, your state could be another 500 state votes. South Dakota, Daschle has won at times by 86 votes. This has got to be a Maalox moment, this whole campaign for you guys.
Well, it is, and Jeff, it's because I think the electorate is so polarized. President Bush has divided this country so strongly, and 45% know what they're going to do. Another 45% are going the other way. So you have this 10% that is movable, flexible. It's new voters. This is why I think Howard Dean helps us, the internet, technology, younger voters. I was just on the Jon Stewart show trying to pick up some votes. You know, I think what we're trying to do is find an electorate that we can appeal to that simply moves our way with positive messages.
Governor, what I want to do is go to the floor right now. We have correspondents in some of these states, including one of the states closest to your heart. We have a reporter, Joe Johns, our correspondent. He's in Nevada right now in that delegation. CNN's John King is in New Mexico. Kelly Wallace in Arizona. Joe, we'll begin with you in Nevada, a state not far away from New Mexico. How much up for grabs is Nevada?
Very much up for grabs, Wolf. As you know, in 2000, Bush won it by 3%. Right now, a poll shows it's just about a 3% difference. Bush still ahead. With me right now is Adriana Martinez. You are the state chair of the Democratic Party. What are you doing to try to get the vote out here? Apparently, Nevada, being a battleground state, is very critical.
It's extremely critical, and we're not taking anything for granted. For starters, we canvass on a weekly basis. We register voters. We have a lot of 527s that are coming in and
How close is it going to be?
Oh, you know what? Everyone says it's going to be close. You know what? I'm the state chair. I'm making sure that the Hispanic vote is going to count this time because I make sure I do an aggressive campaign for Kerry.
Thank you very much, Adriana Martinez. Back to you, Will.
All right, let's go to John King in New Mexico. Couldn't have been much closer in 2000. What's the mood in the delegation right now where you are, John?
Wolf, they're very eager, very active on the floor here in Governor Richardson's home state. And Latino voters, of course, critical to turnout in his state, critical if you have another close margin. It wasn't only Florida that took us into the night and the next morning 4 years ago. New Mexico did as well. It is a battleground state, even though a small state when it comes to the Electoral College, a battleground state again this year. The Bush campaign calls Latino voters the new swing voters. Right now, Senator Kerry has a significant advantage nationally in those polls and is counting on keeping it. So it is obviously one of the key contested in the battleground states. You also have the subset, if you will, of the battleground for the Latino Hispanic vote.
All right, John, we'll get back to you. Kelly Wallace in Arizona. Arizona is a state, I think, that's very much at play as well.
It is. Well, some polls still give Republicans the lead, Wolf. No Democrat other than Bill Clinton has carried the state of Arizona since Harry Truman back in 1948. But there are signs Democrats are trying hard for Arizona. The state's governor to speak at the podium very soon. You had an Indian tribe delivering the national anthem earlier this evening. 27% of the state population Hispanic, 25% of the state population independent voters. So Democrats fighting hard. Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico looking at Arizona, New Mexico, saying the Democrats should focus on a Western strategy as opposed to focusing on the South.
All right, Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada, three important states still at play in this election. Thanks very much. I want to thank Governor Richardson for joining us as well. You got a lot of work to do at this convention. It's only day 2. 2 more days after today. You better eat, sleep, and save your strength.
I'm already worn out, and it's only the second day.
Governor Richardson, thanks very much for joining us. We're going to take another quick break. Much more coverage coming up. Standing by to hear from Howard Dean. What will he say? How tough will he get? Howard Dean getting ready to speak tonight before these Democrats and the nation. We'll be right back.
This is Boston's first time hosting a political convention. Chicago's had the most, 25, including some memorable moments. In 1860, Republicans nominated Abraham Lincoln there. And in 1968, violence flared as anti-Vietnam War protesters filled the streets, clashing with police in what was later called a police riot.
Are oil companies thinking of the future?
You can't go from a highly dependent fuel economy to the next day having no oil. Right. And I mean, there has to be a transition in between, and that has to involve oil companies.
The Democratic National Convention, a CNN Live primetime event sponsored by Samsung Electronics. See and feel the power within.
GAC wants you to help a great cause and pick up your very own autographed collectible from this year's 14th annual City of Hope Celebrity Softball Game. Stop by GACTV.com today and bid on autographed collectibles and game jerseys from players like Vince Gill, Martina McBride, Gretchen Wilson, Brad Paisley, and so many more. The proceeds from this auction will go to help City of Hope in their fight against cancer and other life-threatening diseases.
He has 26 years legal experience. But what's his name?
Hi, I'm Dan Eisenstein.
Einstein?
Eisenstein.
Eisenstein. Highly rated for integrity.
Einstein.
Eisenstein. You won. That was the primary.
We voted for you in February.
Thank you. I need your vote again.
Doesn't take a genius to figure out Einstein.
Eisenstein in the August election.
There's a place just up the road, nestled in the hills with spectacular views right on Center Hill Lake. Lakeside Resort is just what you need. Perfect for lake getaways, corporate seminars and retreats, family fun, golf, reunions, weddings, and anything for those who love the great outdoors. Lakeside's brand new lodge features 26 lakeside suites and can accommodate meetings up to 150. A lot to do or nothing to do. It's another beautiful day in paradise at Lakeside Resort Conference Center and Educational Complex. Online at lakesideresort.com.
Nobody takes it to extremes like Toyota. Extreme quality like nobody else in the world.
and extreme savings with 0% for 60 months or $1,000 cash back on any new Tundra, including double cabs. That's 0 for 60 or $1,000 back on Tundra. Or choose Tacoma and get big cash back. Because at the end of the day, it's not a great deal unless it's a great truck. And you don't have to go to extremes to get it. Now test drive any Toyota truck and get 2 tickets to the Toyota Tundra 200.
Starting Monday, August 30th, the Republican Convention, live on CNN.
Welcome back to the Democratic National Convention at the Fleet Center here in Boston. I'm Will Blitzer. This important note, we're standing by a special Larry King Live. Larry is here. He's already on the floor getting ready for his excellent show that will start shortly after the top of the hour. Also, we're standing by for Howard Dean, the former governor of Vermont, the former presidential candidate. Momentarily, he'll be speaking as well. One of the things we've done at this convention is we've given some of those mini cams, those small video cameras, to some delegates to go out and get a little flavor what's happening behind the scenes. In today's installment of our Delegate Diary, we take you behind the scenes in the hall and on the floor.
The mere fact that you enter the convention center and walk into the room and see thousands of people from all over the country is inspiring and leaves you struck with awe. My name's Jack Hanna. I'm an alternate delegate from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
My name is Donna Brazil, and I'm a delegate from the District of Columbia.
Doing a little embedded delegate for CNN. I think what they'll learn from seeing the convention through the eyes of delegates, they'll learn what it's like to come to a major party event. I'm on the floor every night. In fact, I have a special pair of tennis shoes to wear on the floor. I'm going to be comfortable, and I'm going to sit with a couple of delegations. Louisiana verification!
Pennsylvania, being one of the targeted states, has been given a very prestigious position on the floor. Oftentimes, placement is based upon how valued that particular state is. This year, there are approximately 18 states that have been designated as target swing states. Pennsylvania is one of those.
The biggest difference between the California delegation and other delegations is our sheer size. My name is Dan Winton. I'm a delegate from California. We just have a tremendous number of delegates. So I think at the convention floor, hopefully we'll be one of the loudest as well.
We're noisy. We're passionate about how we feel. But when you look at that sea of faces, I mean, the diversity is so representative of this country. My name is Frances F. Williams, and I'm a delegate from Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Are you from New Mexico? Yeah, I could tell. That's the cutest thing I ever saw.
My hat represents New Mexico, the history of New Mexico, and the contrast in the land of enchantment. We're the rah-rah people to egg them on, energize the election, tell people when we get back about what we heard.
That's our delegate diary. Every day we're going to show you behind the scenes look at what's happening on the floor behind the scenes with these convention delegates. Larry King is here with us. Larry, you got a big show coming up right at the top of the hour, but it's going to start a little bit later because of Howard Dean.
Yeah, I got a transcript of his speech. It's going to be very interesting.
Don't tell us it's embargoed until delivery. You're not allowed to tell us what he says.
What happens? This fascinates me. You veterans of the political world, if you break the embargo,
it's a bad thing. You're not supposed to break the embargo, because once one journalist breaks the embargo, then everybody could break the embargo.
But then what do they do to you?
All right, stand by. We're going to get back to you shortly. Let's take a quick break. Larry King Live. That's standing by. Howard Dean. We're standing by for him as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I've been everywhere, man.
I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathed the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This summer, Choice Hotels invites you to see America. It's our Wake Up a Winner sweepstakes, where you could win a dream vacation to any of the U.S. national parks. And everyone gets a discount on their next visit.
I've been everywhere.
For reservations, visit choicehotels.com. Choice Hotels. We'll see you there.
When our telecom laws were written, most people's idea of a hotspot was South Beach. But now it's a whole new world in telecommunications. If we update our telecom laws, more companies will invest in technologies that will allow us to work how we want, where we want. It's time for the laws to catch up to our lives.
New York?
New York here.
Miami? Miami here.
Better ways to work and play. Now that's the future.
Nice work, Miami.
Faster.
Hey, Dad, this computer would be perfect for school.
Yeah, but this one would be a lot easier for you to, bring home every weekend.
It's that time again, and Circuit City's the place for new school gear. Right now, save $250 on the ultimate dorm room notebook from HP with a widescreen display, AMD Athlon 64 processor, Windows XP Pro, and DVD burner. Just $1499.99 after mail-in rebates and instant savings. Only at Circuit City.
Welcome back to the Democratic National Convention at the Fleet Center here in Boston. A special Larry King Live. That's coming up momentarily, but we're standing by first. Howard Dean, the former presidential candidate, about to speak here before this crowd. A speech that a lot of people are anticipating could get into some real red meat. Jeff Greenfield, you've had a chance to cover Howard Dean for some time. Is he the type of speaker who will tone down his remarks if the Kerry Edwards campaign urges him to do so?
Yes. Howard Dean is playing the good soldier. This is not the kind of case of a Jerry Brown in 1992 looking for a fight. It's not even Gary Hart in 1984. Howard Dean, if you think about where we were a year ago, a lot of us assuming that he was going to move to the nomination on the strength of the internet and move on. Howard Dean is going to play the role of the man who was vanquished and is now signed up to beat George W. Bush. The whole idea of somebody speaking out of tune at this convention is almost literally unthinkable. And for those of us who remember the fractious fights of other decades, it just shows you how old we're getting, Wolf.
Judy Woodruff, Howard Dean played, whether or not you like him or you didn't like him, you have to admit he played a very important role in this Democratic Party this year.
He sure did. He, Jeff just referred to it, Wolf. He really brought the whole idea of the internet into play as a way to raise money and to build a campaign. As Jeff said, a lot of people thought it was going to be Howard Dean who was claiming the nomination this week. But we can't forget, Howard Dean is not where John Kerry is and where much of the Democratic Party is on these issues. He's completely against the war in Iraq. Some Democrats are not. He's criticized John Kerry for taking, in his words, hundreds of thousands of dollars from lobbyists. He's criticized John Kerry for giving the president a blank check on Iraq and so on. So we're going to hear from Howard Dean, and as Jeff said, he's going to toe the party line, but in his heart, he's to the left of this nominee.
Bill Schneider, how important is Howard Dean to the Democratic base?
Howard Dean is used to be the ambassador to the Nader vote, along with Dennis Kucinich. He's there to rally the left, which doesn't seem to have many problems at this convention, to vote for John Kerry. It's important to realize the reason Democrats rejected Howard Dean was they didn't think he could be elected. The whole point was he was too divisive, too harsh, too shrill, and they worried he couldn't beat George Bush. So the point of nominating John Kerry is precisely that he'll be a unifying candidate. He'll reach out to independents, to swing voters, and to dissatisfied Republicans in a way that Democrats feared Howard Dean cannot.
I suspect, Jeff Greenfield, that when Howard Dean is introduced momentarily, this crowd will erupt in thunderous applause.
I think you're right, and I think even the people who feared Howard Dean as the reincarnation of George McGovern give him credit for igniting the Democratic Party. This is a party back on its heels after the 2002 midterm elections when the Republicans controlled the Senate. Howard Dean became a figure by saying to them, why in the world, in effect, are we rolling over for George W. Bush? He gave this party a shot, I don't know why I'm talking about food so much, a shot of espresso liven them up and showed them how to raise tens of millions of dollars, which is helping make John Kerry fully competitive. So you're right. They're going to honor Howard Dean for what he did in getting this party aroused.
Judy, all of us were in Iowa when he gave that speech, the so-called "I have a screen" speech. We watched it. Our mouths were open as we watched it at the time. He had just lost the Iowa caucuses. His campaign, though, was going down before that speech.
Yeah, what a lot of reporters, in fact, what most reporters did not know was that it was not Howard Dean who had built a great organization in Iowa. It was, in fact, John Kerry and, to a degree, John Edwards, who were doing well, and that was reflected in the vote. No, a lot of us were fooled. Howard Dean did a great job on television. He did a great job of stirring up the left wing of this party. But as somebody coined the phrase long ago, this was a party that dated Dean but married Kerry. What voters wanted in Iowa and later on in the later primaries, they wanted somebody who could carry this party to victory in November. They took a good look at Howard Dean and decided, no, he's not the one.
All right, Larry King is standing by. Larry, you have some important guests who are anxious to weigh in on all of this as we await Howard Dean. Larry, pick it up.
Thank you very much, Wolf. Wolf will be back with you at the 10 o'clock hour Eastern Time with his panel and more speeches to come. Ron Reagan speaks tonight. With us here on Larry King Live tonight, Bob Dole is with us in Washington. And here in Boston is George Mitchell, former Senate Majority Leader, and David Gergen, the White House advisor to Presidents Nixon, Ford, Reagan, and Clinton. And on the floor is our man Mo Rocca, who will tour the vast expanse of the Fleet Center tonight. And now they are about to introduce the man who changed American politics for a long time, Howard Dean. Let's go to the podium and meet the former governor of Vermont.
Vermont. Thank you, Texas and Michigan. Thank you. 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 My Lord. Thank you very much. Thank you. I like that one a lot. Thank you very much. I was hoping. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I was hoping for a reception like this. I was just kind of hoping it was going to be on Thursday night instead of Tuesday night. I may not be the nominee, but I can tell you this. For the next 100 days, I'll be doing everything that I can to make sure that John Kerry and John Edwards take this country back for the people who built it. Because tonight, we are all here to represent the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. I am proud of John Kerry's leadership, and I intend to stand shoulder to shoulder with him as we fight for the things that Harry Truman promised us in 1948. Health insurance for every single American. A jobs program that will create jobs instead of destroy them. Standing up for middle class and working Americans who got a tax increase, not a tax cut. And standing up for a foreign policy that relies on the President of the United States telling the truth to the American people before we send our brave soldiers to fight in a foreign war. I'd like a commander-in-chief who supports our soldiers and supports our veterans instead of cutting their hardship pay abroad and cutting their health benefits when they get back home. I'm Howard Dean, and I'm voting for John Kerry. I'm voting for John Kerry and John Edwards because I'm tired of seeing hard-working Americans struggling with jobs that pay less than they did 4 years ago. I'm voting for John Kerry and John Edwards because I want a president and vice president as good and as strong as the American people. I'm voting for John Kerry and John Edwards because I want to see an America that's restored as the moral leader of the world. America's greatness rests on far more than the power of our arms. Our greatness is also measured by our goodness. It's in the capacity of our minds, of our hearts, and it's in the strength of our democracy. As I've traveled America, I've seen that strength. I've seen it in the people I've met. I've seen it in their desire to take our country back for the American people. I saw it in a college student in Pennsylvania who sold her bicycle and sent us a check for $100 with a note that said, "I sold my bicycle for democracy." I saw it in a woman from Iowa who handed me $50, all in quarters. She saved it from her monthly disability check because she wanted to make America well again. I saw it in a 19-year-old from Alabama who had never been involved in politics before he got in his car and drove to Vermont because he didn't feel like anybody was listening to him in Washington. They learned that politics is too important to be left to politicians. They didn't just pack their bags, they packed their hopes that we can take our country back. And you know what? We will. We are not going to be afraid to stand up for what we believe in ever again. We are not going to let those who disagree with us shout us down under a banner of false patriotism. We are not going to give up a single voter or a single state because we're going to be proud to call ourselves Democrats, not just here in Boston. We're going to be proud to call ourselves Democrats in Mississippi. We're going to be proud to call ourselves Democrats in Utah and Idaho. And we are going to be proud to call ourselves Democrats in Texas. Never again will we ever be ashamed to call ourselves Democrats. Never, never, never. We're not going to just change presidents in this election. We're going to change this country, and we're going to reclaim the American dream. To everyone who supported me, you've given me so much, and I can't thank you enough. This was never about me. This was about us. This was about giving new life to our party. This was about giving new energy to our democracy and providing hope again for the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And so, today, even though you've already given so much, I want to ask you to give one more thing. I want you to give America President John Kerry. Together, we can take our country back, and only you have the power to make it happen. You have the power. You have the power. You have the power to make it happen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Address by Governor Howard Dean, the former governor of Vermont, former candidate, and he has stirred this crowd tonight, second night of the Democratic Convention. In a little while, Tom Daschle will join us, and then we're going to hear the keynote speaker. Let's get some comments, though, from our panel. Senator Dole in Washington, what do you make of this? Is this the last hurrah of Howard Dean?
Well, it's hard to tell. Howard Dean has a lot of friends in that audience, as you can tell. He gave a good speech, a very negative speech, called Bush, in effect, a liar about the war, and there was a litany of more spending programs. But it was an effective speech for the audience. He talked about the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party, which I assume to him is the far left of the Democratic Party. But again, you know, he had a friendly crowd. He did a good job. He stayed on message, stayed on time. And I think it was well received. I know it was well received. I can tell from the audience reaction.
Dean. It's customary for candidates who competed for the nomination and didn't get it to rally around the nominee at the convention. I think it's an indication of the desire for unity among Democrats. They've done it rather well, getting everybody to join on, become part of the team, and I think the statement you heard by Howard Dean is part of that process.
David?
Well, Howard Dean gave voice to the Democratic Party early in the process, and I think he put some electricity into the night with that speech. He clearly had people roused up, the music, everything gave some real energy to the evening. I think the one thing that Howard Dean does not do very well for them is reach out beyond their base, and that's going to be critical. They've done a very good job in the last two nights reaching out to their base. I think they've been less successful in reaching out, say, the moderate Republican they need in order to win the election.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to bring in the Minority Leader of the United States Senate, Tom Daschle, in a tough re-election battle himself. And then we'll hear the keynote speaker, and then Ann Richards will join us. You're watching a special edition of Larry King Live, with the second edition coming at midnight. We'll be right back.
You guys ready for this? Let's do it.
Introducing the new Jeep Wrangler Unlimited with the Sunrider soft top. With more passenger room and twice the cargo space, you'll be able to bring so much stuff that you're bound to forget something.
Hey, what's up?
Got everything, right?
Yeah, we got everything. Why?
Trail-rated capability, only in a Jeep 4x4.
There's nowhere it can hide that we can't find it. Nowhere it can go that we can't get it out. That's why when fire and water take control of your life, we help you take it back. ServPro, like it never even happened.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
This summer, Choice Hotels invites you to see America. It's our Wake Up a Winner sweepstakes, where you could win a dream vacation to any of the U.S. national parks. And everyone gets a discount on their next visit.
I've been everywhere.
For reservations, visit choicehotels.com. Choice Hotels. We'll see you there.
The Democratic National Convention, a CNN Live primetime event, sponsored by the Jeep brand.
Yeah, I've made some mistakes, like the meat smoker, the engine overhaul, and that satellite dish.
How about now? No!
But that's all behind me now. For one thing, we have Comcast digital cable. With Comcast, we get lots of choices in high def. Picture is unbelievable. I think that kind of makes up for all the other stuff. Honey?
That was then. This is Comcast.
Gary Moore is a lifelong Tennessee resident. He's been a firefighter for over 24 years and is president of the Tennessee Firefighters Association.
Hi, I'm Gary Moore. I'm running for state representative because I want to protect your future in the 50th House District.
Gary Moore wants to work hard to reform TennCare. Gary Moore will work hard for education and believes our children are our #1 resource. Gary Moore is a family man who's been married for 36 years. Gary Moore has protected our homes and families for over 24 years. On August 5th, vote Gary Moore for state representative.
Vote for my granddaddy.
Starting Monday, August 30th, the Republican Convention, live on CNN.
Before we hear from Mo Rocker on the floor and then our keynote speaker, let's welcome to Larry King Live the Minority Leader of the United States Senate, Tom Daschle. What do you make of this?
Hello, Larry.
So
this
far?
is great. This is great. This is one of the most unified conventions I've seen in a long, long time. You don't see the factions. You don't see the kind of infighting that oftentimes happens at a convention. What you see is a lot of energy, and that's good.
What'd you make of Ted Kennedy?
Well, Ted Kennedy is always going to be Ted Kennedy, and he does he ignites a group like this, and he had a lot of energy, and that's exactly what you'd expect.
Senator Dole, you served with Senator Kennedy a long time. You served with Senator Mitchell. You served with Senator Dack. You served with everybody.
We were lifers. Yeah, right.
Is Ted Kennedy one of those old-fashioned whoop-de-doo guys, Bob?
Well, I wouldn't say old-fashioned Ted Kennedy, just as Ted Kennedy, as Tom Daschle said. He not only ignites Democrats, he also ignites Republicans, and I think that's always been the problem, you know. Where do we take Ted after the convention? And but he's a friend of mine. He does a great job. He's one of the hardest working guys, as Daschle and Mitchell know, in the Senate. He's always prepared. He always has a great staff. And, I like Ted Kennedy. And but I think politically, there are limits on where he can be best utilized.
Mo Rocker on the floor. What was the reaction from your standpoint?
Well, not much of a reaction. I'm here in Pennsylvania, of course. The state tree is the eastern hemlock. That's not what they're talking about tonight. They care about one thing. It's when the appearance of Teresa Heinz. That's all they're talking about is Teresa. As Pennsylvanians know her, she's the pride of Mozambique, the Pennsylvanian African queen. We all know her story. She was raised in the wilds of that deepest, densest continent. She used to race like her good friend Zola Budd across the savannah of southern Africa. And she's risen to become a savvy sophisticate, a bored, brilliant billionairess. And that's the speech that everyone's waiting for here.
Mo Rocker's a little different, Tom.
I can see that.
Yes,
yes,
he's a little different.
I can see that.
Durden, what's your assessment of Ted Kennedy tonight?
Well, he's the liberal lion, and I think we're seeing the lion almost in winter now. He's beginning to pass from the stage, but I think there's a nostalgia for Kennedy now that wraps up a lot of Democrats. They like the Kennedy mystique, and he has been a polarizing figure. But I even think that's wearing off. Look, Bob Dole is. Bob Dole and Ted Kennedy, I think, are both now people who've crossed party lines in their attractions. People like them on both sides of the aisle because they just like them. They've been around, they've been fixtures, and he's not as I think he's not as threatening as he was to some Republicans some years ago.
George Mitchell, you were telling me that he was one of the great senators who ever lived.
He's a great legislator. Behind all of the rhetoric is a very pragmatic, hardworking, skillful legislator. That takes a lot of hard work, as Bob Dole suggested. I think also, Larry, this is his hometown. Age and seniority bring with it certain qualities and a certain degree of respect. And David made the point about appealing to the base and others. At their convention, the Republicans will present Giuliani, McCain, more conservative. They try to appeal both to the base and to reach out. Democrats are no different in that respect. So Ted Kennedy has a very powerful appeal to a large number of Americans, and that was tapped tonight. There'll be others who appeal to others throughout the convention.
Senator Daschle, who is undecided? Who are the undecided?
Oh, I think that there are a lot of Republicans out there right now, and some independents that are undecided, Larry. They're,
no Democrat is undecided.
Oh, you may find a few,
Democrats,
but there aren't many. I think that that there are a lot of people that may have voted for George Bush last time who are trying to decide whether they can make the switch and vote for John Kerry this time, and I think they will.
Candy Crowley, are you there at the rostrum?
I am indeed, Larry.
What was the reaction up there to Howard Dean?
To Howard Dean, actually, this is a great place where I am looking because you can actually see the reaction in the way Dean did. It was great. I mean, they had lots of Dean shirts. I saw one orange hat, which was the people who helped put together his ground campaign in Iowa and New Hampshire. We saw a lot of the people that were on the road for him. I have to tell you that I talked to one of the people that worked on his campaign. I said, well, how is this for you? And he said, well, it's a little bit like being the ex-boyfriend showing up at your ex-girlfriend's wedding without a date. So there are still a couple of, pangs of loss here. But, he told them to go for Kerry, and that's obviously where they're going to go at this point. But a really warm welcome. He was obviously not just from the people who supported him, Larry, but from the people in the party who believe that Dean put it on the right track in the primary.
We'll take a break and come right back and pick up with more comments from our panel, and then we'll meet our keynote speaker, Ann Richards, who will join us later. And we got a show coming at midnight, too. Don't go away.
CNN's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is sponsored by Samsung. Excellence is within everything we create. Samsung Electronics. Log on to CNN.com/election for an insider's look at the 2004 Democratic National Convention.
One look is all it takes. The Samsung LCD television with picture-enhancing DNI-E technology. It's hard to take your eyes off it. Experience the power within. Samsung.
What can an oil company do to gain your trust?
I want them to focus on making our environment cleaner, keeping to the EPA standards, being better than the EPA standards, so that we can all breathe freely and have fresh air. That should be a right.
The creator of The Sixth Sense and Signs has done it again. The Village is a true masterpiece. They are coming. One of the first serious Oscar contenders of the year. The Village is daring and startlingly original. It's a chilling, brilliant, thought-provoking thriller. Please close the door! It will leave you breathless. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, rated PG-13. Enter The Village this Friday.
I can assure you the bank's closing costs are very competitive. I'll just open these blinds to let in a little extra light.
Save big money on lender closing costs with the $395 Ditech flat fee.
That's impossible!
The $395 Ditech flat fee. Why pay more?
Lost another loan to Ditech.
Log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-DITECH-1.
Here's what we're working on tonight for Newsnight, day 2 of the Democratic Convention, the highs, the lows, the fireworks, if any, plus women in politics that 2 decades made a difference. That's Newsnight after the convention coverage tonight on CNN.
We're back on night 2 of the Democratic National Convention in Boston. We thank Tom Daschle for joining us. Ann Richards was scheduled to be on at the end of the hour, but since we don't know when they're going to go to the keynote speaker, we're going to carry his complete speech. He's an extraordinary young man. We'll bring Ann in now, but before we get that, George wanted to add one comment on Howard Dean.
The reaction tonight was in part a reflection of the gratitude many Democrats feel to Governor Dean, even those who don't agree with him. 12, 14 months ago, President Bush was riding high. No one thought any Democrat had a chance to win. He basically stiffened the spines of Democrats. He created a sense of hope and possibility. And even those who didn't support him, he feels some gratitude. That, I think, is part of the reaction tonight.
And Richards,
but I think that...
Well, I think what Howard did was he said it's okay to take on this administration. We don't have to sit back and let them tell their story and not go after them. And Howard did that, did a great service, and as George says, put a little spine in their backbone.
What do you make of this convention so far? You've been to many? You've keynoted one of them.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of them. It's about the same, except these people are more unified than I've ever seen them before. You know, we used to come to these conventions, Larry, and just fight like dogs. And George Bush has done a really great service to the Democrats. He's brought us together in a way I've never seen before.
Are you saying he was a uniter then?
He was a uniter of the Democrats, and I've never seen him so fired up. No questions about the Credentials Committee, no fight in the Platform Committee, no fight in the delegations about who's going to be seated. Everybody is focused on this election.
What happened to the Democrats, David?
Well, I'm just wondering, and I remember when you came to give the keynote address and you talked about George Bush Sr., and you said he was born with a silver foot in his mouth.
I did. It was a great line then, and it's a great line now.
But nobody's giving that kind of line here tonight. I mean, they're fired up, but they're not breathing fire from their nostrils.
Well,
it's
I
a very
know,
different kind of convention.
some people can and some people can't.
Hey, Bob Dole, do you miss this? Not just Democrats or Republicans. Do you miss the action?
Oh, I think everybody misses the action. I mean, I think David said that Ted Kennedy was in the winter of his life. I think he's just in the early fall of his life. But, yeah, you miss it. I mean, it's like, if you really like politics and like people and want to work with people in both parties, it's a great experience, as Senator Mitchell knows and Senator Devils, everybody knows on the panel. But I think Candy said that Howard Dean got the Democratic Party on the right track. I think what she meant to say was on the left track. Because I think he did solidify the left. There is a left in the Democratic Party, a far left. He did bring those people together, and he did fire them up.
Mo Rocca, you have anything to add in the midst of this turbulent congregation at the center here in Boston?
Well, Larry, I'm in Illinois, and the excitement is building. It's an Obama-rama, and it's already begun. They are so excited for Barack Obama to appear. So that's what's happening here.
Tell me, what do you know about him?
I don't know a lot.
Thanks for that. That was insight.
I'm waiting. I didn't want to prejudge him, so I'm waiting for the speech.
George, everyone's raving about this young man. What do you know?
I know Barack. He's an able, articulate, intelligent young man. He will serve all of the people of Illinois very well. I think he's very likely to be elected.
And he handles the media really well.
Is he a shoo-in?
Obama,
There's
I don't
no
think there's
opponent
any question. I don't think they found an opponent for him.
David?
I may run.
He could be the future of the Democratic Party. This could be the first African American who's a serious contender for a nomination of his party. If he has performed as well as he has in the last few months of his campaign, and he has earlier
We're talking
in life.
about a state legislator.
I know this fellow, though, has done a remarkable job. He's the son of immigrants. His father's from Kenya. His mother's from Kansas. His father came here as a Kenyan. He built himself up. He went back out of Harvard Law School, was an editor of the Law Review, went back to work in the community of Illinois and Chicago. He's worked his way up. And I'm telling you, he's one of the most prominent. He's the one of the few people right now, you put your eye on that fellow and watch him. And just see if he makes it. A lot of people start out that way and then they don't make it. But I'm telling you, a lot of us are looking at him saying, he may be the future.
Candy Crowley, are they excited up there about this young man?
Well, I think basically, Larry, what they're doing at this point is most people, I think, if you polled them, would say, who is this young man? And that's the whole point of making him the keynote speaker. And that is, look, we think this is the new face, the next up-and-comer. As far as we know, unless they can find a really strong Republican opponent in Illinois, he's going to become the senator from Illinois. And let me see if I can get this right, the first African-American male Democrat in the U.S. Senate. So, they know, they've heard the buzz about him, but most of these people
Hey, what
still
happened to
don't
Ed
tell you
Brooks?
that much about him. No, I said Democrat.
Democrat.
Oh, Democrat. Oh, okay. All right, yeah, he does appear to be a very attractive, very capable young man. I watched television. And the Republican Party is in complete disarray in Illinois, so I assume he's the odds-on favorite.
Isn't it strange, George, to see a state legislator be the keynote speaker?
It is. It's an unusual set of circumstances, but you can say that of almost all of Barack Obama's life. It's an extraordinary personal story, very compelling. And remember, Larry, the tremendous population growth in this country is being fueled by the large numbers of immigrants coming in. Many, many new Americans identify with someone like Barack Obama.
We're going to be hearing from him in a minute. Senator Durbin is introducing him, and as soon as he's introduced, we're going to meet and maybe for many of you for the first time see what is supposedly an extraordinary young man. And
Well, you remember, Larry, when I was asked to give the keynote, I was a state treasurer. No,
you weren't governor yet?
I was not governor, no. And that's one of the reasons they choose someone for the keynote, that they can mature, that they can lift them up, give them that boost.
But Ann rode here on a motorcycle. She appeared on the stage on a motorcycle, though.
I could have.
Yeah.
Well, Mo Rocca, now you know who he is, right?
Absolutely, that's right. I do. I know. I know who he is now, and I knew also that Ed Brooks is indeed was a Republican senator.
Are you still in Illinois?
I'm making my way from Illinois to American Samoa. Remember my old friends, the Samoans. It's very interesting that there are 90 Kennedys here tonight. That 90? Means, yes, the 90 Kennedys were here to listen to Ted Kennedy, and that means that there are 15 times as many Kennedys as Samoans here. There were only 6 Samoans. Now, 5 of the Samoans were delegates for Kerry. 1 was for Kucinich, and I want to know who got stuck with the Kucinich. They told me the Samoans, the chief Samoan said that they made one of them be the Kucinich delegate. Interesting.
Maria Shriver was here, Bob Dole, the wife of the Republican governor of California, cheering on the Democrats.
No, that's fine. I think, and I hope she cheers on Arnold. Maybe it'll be Arnold and this young man from Illinois will run against each other someday if we get that amendment passed.
Yes.
I don't know if you know how to say hello in Samoan. It's Kaloga.
Kaloga. Thank you. Kaloga. Carry on. We give him a cold compress now. We're about to meet this extraordinary young man, a candidate for the United States Senate in Illinois, being introduced by Senator Dick Durbin, the senator in Illinois. He will be the keynote speaker tonight. We've heard a lot about him from our panel. All have raved. He is State Senator Barack Obama.
My friend, a great Democrat, a man who brought so many of us into public service. But in Illinois, we have a Senate candidate who continues the great tradition of Paul Simon, a tradition of honesty, a tradition of fairness. Who is that candidate? You've got it. And let me tell you about this Barack Obama. He is a candidate for the Senate whose life celebrates the opportunity of America. A candidate for the Senate whose family reflects the hope of an embracing nation. A candidate for the Senate whose values rekindle our faith in a new generation. And a candidate who has the extraordinary gift to bring people together of all different backgrounds. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. In the 1970s, I served as a staffer for Paul Simon. I was sent to Cairo, Illinois, a tiny town in the southernmost part of our state, a town that was in the wake of terrible racial strife. The gulf between blacks and whites gaped wide and almost seemed hopeless. This year, I returned to Cairo, Illinois. I found what in the 1970s would have been unthinkable, a gathering of hundreds of people, black and white, all wearing campaign buttons for Barack Obama. With this election, Illinois, the United States Senate, and America will have a man who can help heal the divisions of our nation. The next senator from the state of Illinois, Barack Obama. So much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dick Durbin. You make us all proud. On behalf of the great state of Illinois, crossroads of a nation, land of Lincoln, let me express my deepest gratitude for the privilege of addressing this convention. Tonight is a particular honor for me because, let's face it, my presence on this stage is pretty unlikely. My father was a foreign student, born and raised in a small village in Kenya. He grew up herding goats, went to school in a tin roof shack. His father, my grandfather, was a cook, a domestic servant to the British. But my grandfather had larger dreams for his son. Through hard work and perseverance, my father got a scholarship to study in a magical place, America, that shone as a beacon of freedom and opportunity to so many who had come before. While studying here, my father met my mother. She was born in a town on the other side of the world, in Kansas. Her father worked on oil rigs and farms through most of the Depression. The day after Pearl Harbor, my grandfather signed up for duty, joined Patton's Army, marched across Europe. Back home, my grandmother raised a baby and went to work on a bomber assembly line. After the war, they studied on the GI Bill, bought a house through FHA, and later moved west, all the way to Hawaii in search of opportunity. And they too had big dreams for their daughter. A common dream born of two continents. My parents shared not only an improbable love, they shared an abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation. They would give me an African name, Barack, or Blessed, believing that in a tolerant America, your name is no barrier to success. They imagined me going to the best schools in the land, even though they weren't rich, because in a generous America, you don't have to be rich to achieve your potential. They're both passed away now. And yet I know that on this night, they look down on me with great pride. They stand here, and I stand here today, grateful for the diversity of my heritage, aware that my parents' dreams live on in my two precious daughters. I stand here knowing that my story is part of the larger American story, that I owe a debt to all of those who came before me, and that in no other country on earth is my story even possible. Tonight, we gather to affirm the greatness of our nation. Not because of the height of our skyscrapers, or the power of our military, or the size of our economy. Our pride is based on a very simple premise, summed up in a declaration made over 200 years ago. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is the true genius of America. A faith in simple dreams, an insistence on small miracles, that we can tuck in our children at night and know that they are fed and clothed and safe from harm. That we can say what we think, write what we think without hearing a sudden knock on the door. That we can have an idea and start our own business without paying a bribe. That we can participate in the political process without fear of retribution, and that our votes will be counted, at least most of the time. This year, in this election, we are called to reaffirm our values and our commitments, to hold them against a hard reality, and see how we're measuring up to the legacy of our forebears and the promise of future generations. And fellow Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, I say to you tonight, we have more work to do. More work to do for the workers I met in Galesburg, Illinois, who are losing their union jobs at the Maytag plant that's moving to Mexico, and now are having to compete with their own children for jobs that pay $7 an hour. More to do for the father that I met who was losing his job and choking back the tears, wondering how he would pay $4,500 a month for the drugs his son needs without the health benefits that he counted on. More to do for the young woman in East St. Louis, and thousands more like her, who has the grades, has the drive, has the will, but doesn't have the money to go to college. Now, don't get me wrong, the people I meet in small towns and big cities, in diners and office parks, they don't expect government to solve all their problems. They know they have to work hard to get ahead, and they want to. Go into the collar counties around Chicago, and people will tell you they don't want their tax money wasted by a welfare agency or by the Pentagon. Go into any inner city neighborhood, and folks will tell you that government alone can't teach our kids to learn. They know that parents have to teach, that children can't achieve unless we raise their expectations and turn off the television sets and eradicate the slander that says a black youth with a book is acting white. They know those things.
People don't expect government to solve all their problems, but they sense deep in their bones that with just a slight change in priorities, we can make sure that every child in America has a decent shot at life, and that the doors of opportunity remain open to all. They know we can do better, and they want that choice. In this election, we offer that choice. Our party has chosen a man to lead us who embodies the best this country has to offer, and that man is John Kerry. John Kerry understands the ideals of community, faith, and service because they've defined his life. From his heroic service to Vietnam, to his years as a prosecutor and lieutenant governor, through 2 decades in the United States Senate, he's devoted himself to this country. Again and again, we've seen him make tough choices when easier ones were available. His values and his record affirm what is best in us. John Kerry believes in an America where hard work is rewarded. So instead of offering tax breaks to companies shipping jobs overseas, he offers them to companies creating jobs here at home. John Kerry believes in an America where all Americans can afford the same health coverage our politicians in Washington have for themselves. John Kerry believes in energy independence, so we aren't held hostage to the profits of oil companies or the sabotage of foreign oil fields. John Kerry believes in the constitutional freedoms that have made our country the envy of the world, and he will never sacrifice our basic liberties, nor use faith as a wedge to divide us. And John Kerry believes that in a dangerous world, war must be an option sometimes, but it should never be the first option. You know, a while back, I met a young man named Seamus in a VFW hall in East Moline, Illinois. He was a good-looking kid, 6'2", 6'3", clear-eyed with an easy smile. He told me he joined the Marines and was heading to Iraq the following week. And as I listened to him explain why he'd enlisted, the absolute faith he had in our country and its leaders, his devotion to duty and service, I thought, this young man was all that any of us might ever hope for in a child. But then I asked myself, are we serving Seamus as well as he's serving us? I thought of the 900 men and women, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, friends and neighbors who won't be returning to their own hometowns. I thought of the families I'd met who were struggling to get by without a loved one's full income, or whose loved ones had returned with a limb missing or nerves shattered, but still lacked long-term health benefits because they were reservists. When we send our young men and women into harm's way, we have a solemn obligation not to fudge the numbers or shade the truth about why they're going, to care for their families while they're gone, to tend to the soldiers upon their return, and to never, ever go to war without enough troops to win the war, secure the peace, and earn the respect of the world. Now let me be clear. We have real enemies in the world. These enemies must be found, they must be pursued, and they must be defeated. John Kerry knows this. And just as Lieutenant Kerry did not hesitate to risk his life to protect the men who served with him in Vietnam, President Kerry will not hesitate one moment to use our military might to keep America safe and secure. John Kerry believes in America, and he knows that it's not enough for just some of us to prosper. For alongside our famous individualism, there's another ingredient in the American saga, a belief that we're all connected as one people. If there is a child on the south side of Chicago who can't read, that matters to me even if it's not my child. If there's a senior citizen somewhere who can't pay for their prescription drugs and having to choose between medicine and the rent, that makes my life poorer even if it's not my grandparent. If there's an Arab American family being rounded up without benefit of an attorney or due process, that threatens my civil liberties. It is that fundamental belief. It is that fundamental belief. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper that makes this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams and yet still come together as one American family. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us. The spin masters, the negative ad peddlers, who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states. Red states for Republicans, blue states for Democrats. But I've got news for them too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America. In the end, that's what this election is about. Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope? John Kerry calls on us to hope. John Edwards calls on us to hope. I'm not talking about blind optimism here, the almost willful ignorance that thinks unemployment will go away if we just don't think about it, or healthcare crisis will solve itself if we just ignore it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something more substantial. It's the hope of slaves sitting around a fire singing freedom songs. The hope of immigrants setting out for distant shores. The hope of a young naval lieutenant bravely patrolling the Mekong Delta. The hope of a mill worker's son who dares to defy the odds. The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him too. Hope in the face of difficulty. Hope in the face of uncertainty. The audacity of hope. In the end, that is God's greatest gift to us, the bedrock of this nation. A belief in things not seen. A belief that there are better days ahead. I believe that we can give our middle class relief and provide working families with a road to opportunity. I believe we can provide jobs to the jobless, homes to the homeless, and reclaim young people in cities across America from violence and despair. I believe that we have a righteous wind at our backs, and that as we stand on the crossroads of history, we can make the right choices and meet the challenges that face us. America, tonight, if you feel the same energy that I do, if you feel the same urgency that I do, if you feel the same passion that I do, if you feel the same hopefulness that I do, if we do what we must do, then I have no doubt that all across the country, from Florida to Oregon, from Washington to Maine, the people will rise up in November, and John Kerry will be sworn in as president, and John Edwards will be sworn in as vice president, and this country will reclaim its promise, and out of this long political darkness, a brighter day will come. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. Thank you.
keynote speech delivered by Barack Obama, state senator for the state of Illinois, candidate for the U.S. Senate. Before we turn it over to Wolf Blitzer, a quick comment. Before we turn it over to Wolf Blitzer, a quick comment from our panel. Bob Dole, what did you think of that?
I'll give him an A.
An A.
I'll give him an A, right. Very good.
Okay. David Gergen.
Best speech of the convention is to reach out beyond the Democratic base. Best speech to reach out to others.
George.
Very good talk. I think a great future for a very fine young man.
And
Knocked it out of the park. Had me glued, boy. I just thought he gave us hope. He gave us feeling that, yes, you can change this country for the better.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Larry King Live. We'll be back at midnight with a full hour more. Right now, it's time to guide you through the rest of the night. We turn it over to my man, Wolf Blitzer. Wolf.
Thanks very much, Larry. We have a lot more to cover this night in the coming hour. Ron Reagan will speak. Ron Reagan will speak on embryonic stem cell research, a sensitive subject. We'll also hear from Teresa Heinz Kerry, the wife of the Democratic candidate. Much more coverage. It's only starting. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back from the Fleet Center in Boston.
CNN's coverage of the Democratic National Convention is brought to you by your credit card companies.
My credit card company called me. They wanted to know if I charged 2 surfboards in Laguna Beach.
Credit card companies are on the alert for fraud.
They gave me a new card the next day.
Most credit card fraud is detected before the victim even knows about it.
I wasn't held responsible.
If we think it's not you, we'll contact you to check a purchase.
I guess it wasn't a wipeout.
Your credit card companies.
Now there's a non-drowsy medicine that lets you breathe again. Alivert Allergy and Sinus relieves sinus pressure, runny nose, and nasal congestion. Breathe again. With Alivert Allergy and Sinus, the right relief, wherever you are.
Oh, thanks, Marge.
Sorry.
There's this guy named Murphy. He's got this law that says whatever can go wrong will. That's why the trail-rated Jeep Grand Cherokee is tested on Earth's toughest terrain. It's your loophole in Murphy's Law.
Celebrate Chrysler Financial's 40th with $4,500 in combined cash allowance. Plus, through August 2nd, make no monthly payments till 2005.
Here's an excellent way to strengthen your immune system, your muscles, and your joints. Your body will thank you. Nuvim is a great tasting way to a stronger, healthier you. Refreshing Nuvim, the healthiest thing you can drink.
Tins and sweets, worth checking into.
As America votes, stay with CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
Welcome back to the Democratic National Convention. This is an important hour for the Democrats. Momentarily, we'll be hearing from Ron Reagan, the son of the late President Ronald Reagan, the son of Mrs. Nancy Reagan. He's going to be speaking on a very sensitive subject, a subject entitled embryonic stem cell research, and he's going to be making the case why the Democrats should make sure that President Bush is not reelected. Judy Woodruff, how important is this issue for the Democratic Party?
It's important, Wolf. I wouldn't say that it's decisive. It is an issue where they can point out a difference with President Bush because he's been emphatic. He does not want to increase the so-called lines of embryonic stem cell research. But before we move on, Wolf, I just want to say another quick word about Obama. He electrified this convention hall and he got right to the heart of a problem that George W. Bush has, in that polls show people think George W. Bush has divided the country. And when he said we don't have a conservative in America and a liberal America, we have a United States of America, I think he's getting right at something that the Republicans need to worry about.
Jeff Greenfield, you know a lot about writing speeches and delivering speeches.
That's as good as they come. That's why people like me love conventions, even if they're predictable on the outcome. Here's a 43-year-old African-American using conservative lines, like we don't like government waste at welfare agencies or the Pentagon. We have to eradicate the slander that a black kid with a book is acting white. This is a fellow who is talking beyond the Democratic base to the whole country. It was terrific.
Now you understand why he was the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review. Ron Reagan is walking in. In fact, he's at the podium right now. Ron Reagan, the son of the late President Ronald Reagan, is going to be speaking. Let's listen.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A few of you may be surprised to see someone with my last name showing up to speak at a Democratic convention. Apparently some of you are not. Let me assure you, I am not here to make a political speech, and the topic at hand should not, must not have anything to do with partisanship. I am here tonight to talk about the issue of research into what may be the greatest medical breakthrough in our or any lifetime: the use of embryonic stem cells, cells created using the material of our own bodies to cure a wide range of fatal and debilitating illnesses: Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, lymphoma, spinal cord injuries, and much more. Millions are afflicted, and every year, every day, tragedy is visited upon families across the country, around the world. Now, it may be within our power to put an end to this suffering. We only need to try. Now, some of you already know what I'm talking about when I say embryonic stem cell research. Others of you are probably thinking, that's quite a mouthful. Maybe this is the good time to go for a tall, cold one. Well, wait a minute. Let me try and paint as simple a picture as I can while still doing justice to the science, the incredible science involved. Let's say that 10 or so years from now, you are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. There is currently no cure, and drug therapy with its attendant side effects can only temporarily relieve the symptoms. Now, imagine going to a doctor who, instead of prescribing drugs, takes a few skin cells from your arm. The nucleus of one of your cells is placed into a donor egg whose own nucleus has been removed. A bit of chemical or electrical stimulation will encourage your cell's nucleus to begin dividing, creating new cells, which will then be placed into a tissue culture. Those cells will generate embryonic stem cells containing only your DNA, thereby eliminating the risk of tissue rejection. These stem cells are then driven to become the very neural cells that are defective in Parkinson's patients. And finally, those cells with your DNA are injected into your brain, where they will replace the faulty cells whose failure to produce adequate dopamine led to the Parkinson's disease in the first place. In other words, you're cured. And another thing, these embryonic stem cells, they could continue to replicate indefinitely and theoretically can be induced to recreate virtually any tissue in your body. How'd you like to have your own personal biological repair kit standing by at the hospital? Sound like magic? Welcome to the future of medicine. Now, by the way, no fetal tissue is involved in this process. No fetuses are created, none destroyed. This all happens in the laboratory at the cellular level. Now, there are those who would stand in the way of this remarkable future. who would deny the federal funding so crucial to basic research. They argue that interfering with the development of even the earliest stage embryo, even one that will never be implanted in a womb and will never develop into an actual fetus, is tantamount to murder. A few of these folks, needless to say, are just grinding a political axe, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But many are well-meaning and sincere. Their belief is just that, an article of faith, and they are entitled to it. But it does not follow that the theology of a few should be allowed to forestall the health and well-being of the many. And how can we affirm life if we abandon those whose own lives are so desperately at risk? It is a hallmark of human intelligence that we are able to make distinctions. Yes, these cells could theoretically have the potential, under very different circumstances, to develop into human beings. That potential is where their magic lies. But they are not, in and of themselves, human beings. They have no fingers and toes, no brain or spinal cord. They have no thoughts, no fears. They feel no pain. Surely, we can distinguish between these undifferentiated cells multiplying in a tissue culture and a living, breathing person, a parent, a spouse, a child. I know a child. Well, she must be 13 now. I guess I'd better call her a young woman. She has fingers and toes. She has a mind. She has memories. She has hopes. She has juvenile diabetes. Like so many kids with this disease, she's adjusted amazingly well. The insulin pump she wears, she's decorated hers with rhinestones. She can handle her own catheter needle. She's learned to sleep through the blood drawings in the wee hours of the morning. She's very brave. She is also quite bright and understands full well the progress of her disease and what that might ultimately mean. Blindness, amputation, diabetic coma. Every day she fights to have a future. What excuse will we offer this young woman should we fail her now? What might we tell her children or the millions of others who suffer? That when given an opportunity to help, we turned away? That facing political opposition, we lost our nerve? That even though we knew better, we did nothing? And should we fail, how will we feel if a few years from now, a more enlightened generation should fulfill the promise of embryonic stem cell therapy? Imagine what they would say of us who lacked the will. No, we owe this young woman and all those who suffer, we owe ourselves better than that. We are better than that. We are a wiser people, a finer nation. And for all of us in this fight, let me say, we will prevail. The tide of history is with us. Like all generations who have come before ours, we are motivated by a thirst for knowledge and compelled to see others in need as fellow angels on an often difficult path, deserving of our compassion. In a few months, we will face a choice. Yes, between two candidates and two parties, but more than that. We have a chance to take a giant stride forward for the good of all humanity. We can choose between the future and the past, between reason and ignorance, between true compassion and mere ideology. This is our moment, and we must not falter. Whatever else you do, come November 2nd, I urge you, please, cast a vote for embryonic stem cell research. Thank you for your time.
Ron Reagan, the son of the late President Ronald Reagan, making the case for embryonic stem cell research before a very receptive crowd here at the Fleet Center of the Democratic National Convention. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that Nancy Reagan came out and said she supports embryonic stem cell research herself, differentiating with various elements of her own party. Judy Woodruff, it's important to recognize that the Bush administration, President Bush, has supported embryonic stem cell research. In August of 2001, he became the first president to fund embryonic stem cell research, but there are limitations that he imposed.
That's right, Wolf. What happened was President Bush said he wanted a limited number of so-called lines open to conduct this research, and they have found very shortly after that, the scientists who work on this, that they didn't have enough to do the work that is necessary. It is from that decision that this movement to expand embryonic stem cell research that Ron Reagan talked about tonight has grown and grown and grown. Nancy Reagan has come on board, and even though you didn't hear him mention Alzheimer's disease, which President Reagan, his father, died of, there are so many other diseases that would clearly benefit. Diabetes, spinal cord injury, Parkinson's disease. It has become a crusade for these people.
I must say, Wolf, that he began his speech, Ron Reagan, by saying that he was not here to make a political speech, and ended by saying, cast a vote for embryonic stem cell research. The only way you can do that in this election is to vote for John Kerry. This was a political speech aimed squarely at people in the middle, people whose relatives have diseases that this might help, people who can be, even some people who are against abortion, like Senator Orrin Hatch, have broken with the president on this. Frankly, it was a very well-received speech. To say it is not a political speech, I think that's a reach.
All right, let's bring in our Crossfire co-host, Tucker Carlson, Paul Begala. Tucker, first to you. What did you make of Ron Reagan's presentation?
Well, I mean, I agree with Jeff that to call it not a political speech, given at a political convention, ending with a plea for a vote for John Kerry is, as he put it, a stretch. I guess I'd call it ludicrous. I thought it was a pretty effective polemic. I guess the questions I would have are, A, has he oversold the case for it? I mean, do we really know that in 10 years Parkinson's could possibly be cured by it? That seems a stretch to me. And I guess, B, is it a smart idea politically to sort of write off people who have qualms, it seems to me some of them legitimate qualms, about genetic engineering, about creating life, in some cases for the sake of destroying it? Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not, but to write them off as snake handlers and superstitious people who are, clinging to antiquated faith systems, I'm not sure that's what the Democratic Party wants to do. There are legitimate, decent religious people who are kind of concerned about it, and that's a fair concern.
This is a moral matter for a lot of people out there, Paul Begala.
Oh, absolutely, and I have to say, I disagree with Tucker. I don't think that Ron Reagan characterized people who have good faith disagreements with his position on stem cell research in any kind of a negative light. In fact, at one point he talked about people who have diseases as fellow angels on a difficult path. I think it showed a respect or reverence for their religious views. It did what a good speech ought to do. It simplified the issue. He took a very complex issue and made it simple. It humanized the issue, his story of that 13-year-old girl, and then it framed up the choice, I think, rather nicely for Mr. Reagan's cause. The comparisons are inevitable. There was a moment or two where I heard him talking about that 13-year-old girl, and I did hear echoes of his late father.
When you take a look at this whole issue, though, Tucker, and the politics of the fact that a man named Ron Reagan is here at the Democratic Convention with the blessing, presumably, and we all assume it's the case, of Nancy Reagan, the political benefit for the Democrats potentially is what?
Well, I mean, the idea is that this is an issue that transcends politics and that, it's something all reasonable people can agree on. They've done a lot of polling on this, and apparently it does work with swing voters. I mean, I guess the 9 swing voters still left in America find this of interest. I guess it's a kind of a coup that they got a guy named Reagan. He's a liberal and has been for some time. It does seem a little creepy that they would bring him on simply because he's related to the president who just died. I mean, he's not a scientist. I do think he made a pretty good case for it, but it does seem a little morbid almost, or almost ghoulish to have a guy on there simply because his father was president who recently died. I don't know, just my take.
So let me let Paul respond to that. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, I think it was a very effective spokesman for his cause, it's clearly something that Mr. Reagan wanted to do. I had a chance to see him the other day and talk to him about this a little bit. He feels very passionate about it. He I think probably is a liberal, I think Tucker's right, but he didn't want it to be seen as simply saying, go vote for John Kerry. He wanted to make a larger point, and I think he did that. I mean, for people who don't know much about this issue and who are watching and who are in the center, I think he made a very effective, common-sense case in the same way that his father used to for his father's policy.
All right, Paul Begala, Tucker Carlson, let me let Jeff weigh in on this point before we turn the corner, talk about the next major speaker here. That's going to be Teresa Heinz Kerry.
The Republicans have for some time succeeded in what are called wedge issues, moving people away from what the party of their forebears on issues like crime and guns and abortion. Democrats believe that with stem cell research, they have a wedge issue to move otherwise conservative people more toward them by painting the Republicans as too extreme on this issue. That's what I think in part Ron Reagan was doing here tonight.
All right, we're going to get ready for Teresa Heinz Kerry. She's going to be speaking tonight. She'll be introduced by her son, Chris Heinz. This could be a moving moment for these Democrats.
It could be. Teresa Heinz Kerry, somebody who was not naturally involved in politics.
Judy, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Candy Crowley's up on the podium. She's got one of the stars of the evening, Barack Obama. Candy.
Michael, I lost Mike. Yeah.
Candy's obviously dropped her microphone. We're gonna get back to Candy as soon as she fixes that. Barack Obama standing by to speak with our Candy Crowley. We'll go back to her right now. Candy?
Keynote address. So, let me tell you a couple of things. First of all, that is that I heard our commentary afterwards, and one of those we had on board said, best speech of the convention.
Well, that's very kind. What I was just glad about was that I kept it within my time limit.
So they were pretty strict about that part.
Well, understandably so. The coverage is limited, and we want to make sure that all the wonderful speakers get a chance.
Look, if you had to tell me what audience were you trying to reach with that speech?
I was trying to reach a broad audience of people who have an enormous sense of decency that's not always reflected in our politics. And they can be Republican or Democrat or independent, but they're just common sense folks. They're not ideological. And oftentimes the kind of conversation that's taking place in Washington just turns them off. And what I want them to get a sense of is that government can serve a role, that it expresses our mutual obligations in a meaningful way.
Now in Washington we call those swing voters.
More and more people, I think, are looking at this election in a very serious way. And they don't want a lot of platitudes, they don't want jargon, and they don't want a lot of negative campaigning. What they want, and this is even among partisans, I think, is seriously addressing the issues and seeing what, in fact, can be done to make our country stronger.
When the Kerry campaign called you and said, hey, we want you to be the keynote speaker, did you say, how come, or did you say yes?
You don't, kick a gift horse in the mouth, right? You just...
why do you think, there's a lot of Democrats out there. Why do you think they picked you?
I'm sure part of it is that as potentially the only African American in the U.S. Senate, I think I'm reflective of potential diversity in our party, and our party values that. I think part of it is the way we won the election in the primary. We defied a lot of conventional wisdom about where votes come from, because the assumption is, well, whites won't vote for blacks, or city folks won't vote for or suburban folks won't vote for city people, or downstate won't vote for upstate. And we were able to put together a coalition that said, people are willing to give anybody a shot if they're speaking to them in a way that makes sense.
And if you had to give John Kerry one piece of advice for Illinois, what is it that he's got to do to reach the same kind of voters that you did?
He's going to win Illinois. But if I were to give him if I were to presume to give him advice, I would just say, be yourself. And because I think he's an enormously intelligent, passionate person who's devoted his entire life to service. And sometimes the handlers get in the way. So I want him to just go ahead.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Barack Obama. They say you're a rising star. We'll be looking for you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Back to you, Wolf.
They don't have to say it anymore, Candy. He is a rising star, Barack Obama, delivering a keynote address, one of the best we've heard in many, many years. We'll take a quick break. We're standing by Teresa Heinz Kerry. She'll be speaking, the next major speaker. We'll, of course, have live coverage here at the Fleet Center in Boston.
CNN.
Hi, I'm Sigourney Weaver. If you're like me, your dog or cat is part of the family, and they rely on you to take care of them. Like a family doctor, your veterinarian and staff know what's best for that special family member. So visit your vet regularly for checkups, for prevention of disease like heartworm, and for the best advice on everyday issues like flea and tick control. Your veterinarian knows best, so take the time to ask questions. For healthy pets, visit the vet.
A message from the American.
Welcome back to the Democratic National Committee, the Fleet Center here in Boston. This hour, we're still standing by to hear from Teresa Heinz Kerry, the wife of the Democratic candidate. She'll be introduced by her son, Chris Heinz, himself a potential star in this Democratic Party. Who exactly is Teresa Heinz Kerry? Our Candy Crowley has been taking a look at that.
Mostly, she travels separately. Seattle, Orlando, New Orleans. How do you have a marriage given the demands?
Good question. You know, I tell myself that this is not a living, this is an existence.
A stop and smell the flowers woman caught up in a run over your grandmother world. Meet Teresa of the campaign trail.
You can't live this way. It's not tenable unless, you know, you're a machine. I'm not a machine. So I know that about myself. And I remind people of that. You know, this is not the way people live. You know, there's a lot to life.
Need we say it? Teresa Heinz Kerry is a free spirit. She has publicly discussed her Botox injections and her prenup with John Kerry. She is passionate, smart, and playful, known to swear in any of the 5 languages she speaks. She is a deeply rich woman, controlling a fortune estimated by the LA Times recently at $1 billion, conservatively. It's hard to know for sure since she won't release her tax returns. One of the country's leading philanthropists, last year she oversaw $70 million in grants from a variety of endowments. Teresa inherited the money from her late husband, U.S. Senator John Heinz III, sole heir to the Heinz pickle and ketchup fortune. He died in a 1991 crash of his twin-engine plane. They had been married for 25 years.
My first love, and my guy, he was my man, you know. And I became a grown-up, became a woman with him, you know, a mother, a wife, and an American. You know, he taught me all those things.
She has been married to John Kerry for 9 years. Last year, she changed her party affiliation from Republican to Democrat and her name from Teresa Heinz to Teresa Heinz Kerry. She was born Maria Teresa Tirstein Simões Ferreira. Raised in Mozambique, the daughter of a prominent Portuguese doctor, she became an American citizen at the age of 32. Her speeches can be mind-boggling, covering in 30 minutes' time the benefits of organic food and sunscreen, growing up in the shadow of a colonial dictatorship, and oh yes, John Kerry's candidacy. They ran into each other at an Earth Day summit in 1992, she a widow, he a divorcee. She says they have a lot in common, that he makes her laugh. He can't say enough.
She's a full woman, fascinating, unbelievably engaging, loves fun, loves dance, loves music, loves the arts, loves the world, loves the environment, loves people, loves life. And she's full of it. Life.
They married in 1995, and like so many wives, she was apparently the last to know.
You know, if John had told me 10 years ago, I am going to run for president one day, I would have said, hello. Not with me or not. Not because I don't think it's important and a great thing, but it would have scared me.
She has changed her mind since and thought enough about it to know that her priority as a First Lady would be to serve as a rock to steady her husband, the person who whispers in the president's ear.
Remember, we love you, and sometimes we think you're, you know, too full of yourself, and other times you're down. But we love you. And that's what I think a spouse has to do first and foremost. Because it's a lonely place to be.
Tonight, Wolf, you will see a Teresa Heinz Kerry rarely seen before, a scripted one. At least that's what the Kerry campaign hopes. Wolf?
All right, Candy Crowley, thanks very much. We've all heard Teresa Heinz on the campaign trail. She rarely speaks from a speech, but she will from a written text. She will tonight. She's about to be introduced by her son, 31-year-old Christopher Heinz. He's a rising star as well, even though he says he's open and he's not made up his mind about a political career yet, but he's sure showing some signs he might be interested.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight to introduce my mother, Teresa Heinz Kerry. But first, I'd like to say how proud I am of my stepfather and how honored I am to serve this cause. When my mom first introduced me to John, I said to myself, "Self, the only man good enough for your mother is the President of the United States." I think it's going to work out. More seriously, last week, our family lost a dear friend, Joe Clark. Joe had worked with our family for 35 years, since July of 1966. He was family. Joe first met my mom when she was newly married and pregnant with my oldest brother. Digesting the loss of our friend, my mom and I spoke last week of their first meeting in Washington at the beginning of her American journey. We talked about the 38 years that had passed in her life, and as Joe would say, all them changes. You see, in '66, my mom was new to America, having recently arrived from her native home of Mozambique. Bright, 27 years young, and speaking five languages as a trained translator. She'd met him. She'd met a man from Pittsburgh, fallen in love, and moved to the United States to start a new life. And as so frequently happens in this country, as an immigrant, she took America and its opportunities and freedoms for all they're worth, both as a mother and as an engaged, progressive person. In a long career dedicated to improving the lives of others, her finest work has been her stewardship of the Heinz Endowment since my father's death in 1991. She is a true visionary. The New York Times has referred to her as one of the nation's leading philanthropists. But don't take their word for it, or mine, because I'm definitely biased. But simply go ask the residents of Western Pennsylvania and beyond about her tireless efforts to protect our environment, promote the arts, improve education, and broaden economic opportunity, particularly for women. I'll bet they vouch for me. My mother's political accomplishments are also remarkable, considering she grew up in a dictatorship. From joining the first Pennsylvania Women's Political Caucus in 1972, to more recently fighting for health care and prescription drugs for seniors, my mom has set an example that's hard to follow. In total, she's campaigned in 7 successful congressional races as a spouse to 2 wonderful men. Indeed, my mom's political accomplishments and experience are so varied and so recognized that in 1991, after my father's death, prominent members of the Republican Party urged her to run for the Senate. Of course, none of these achievements define her as my mother, not through the prism of a son's eyes. I'm blessed to see and know so much more about this remarkable woman. My memories run deep. Flashes of her packing my lunch, applying a Band-Aid, sending me off to college, or serving as a very necessary first line of defense against some aggressive older brothers. And while it's impossible for me to share my full sentiments here with you all, let me just say this. My mother, in my heart and mind, is a force. Spiritual, organic, and loving. Smart, funny, and wise. If, as her son, I can be any 2 of those things in my life, I'll be lucky. Oh, and by the way, if I look that good at 65, I'll be doubly blessed. But in the meantime, I'm blessed to be a part of her life and her American journey. Mom, I love you, And on behalf of my stepfather, my father, and my dear friend Joe, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the nation to someone I hope and believe will be the next First Lady of the United States, Teresa Heinz Kerry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Christopher. Your father would be very proud of you and your brothers. And I love you, and I love our family. My name is Teresa Heinz Kerry. And by now, I hope it will come as no surprise that I have something to say. Tonight, as I have done throughout this campaign, I would like to speak to you from the heart. Y a todos los hispanos, los latinos, à tous les franco-américains, a tutti gli italiani, a toda a família portuguesa e brasileiras também. And to all the continental Africans living in this country, and to all the new Americans in our country, I invite you to join in our conversation and together with us work towards the noblest purpose of all, a free, good, and democratic society. I am grateful. I am so grateful for the opportunity to stand before you and to say a few words about my husband, John Kerry, and why I firmly believe that he should be the next President of the United States. This is such a powerful moment for me. Like many other Americans, like many of you, and like even more your parents and grandparents, I was not born in this country. And as you have seen, I grew up in East Africa, in Mozambique, in a land that was then under a dictatorship. My father, a wonderful, caring man who practiced medicine for 43 years and who taught me how to understand disease and wellness only got to vote for the first time when he was 73 years old. That's what happens in dictatorships. As a young woman, I attended Witwatersrand University in Johannesburg, South Africa, which was then not segregated. But I witnessed the weight of apartheid everywhere around me. And so with my fellow students, we marched in the streets of Johannesburg against its extension into higher education. This was the late 1950s, at the dawn of the civil rights marches in America. And as history records, our efforts in South Africa failed, and the Higher Education Apartheid Act passed. Apartheid tightened its ugly grip. The Sharpeville riots followed, and Nelson Mandela was arrested and sent to Robben Island. I learned something then, and I believe it still. There is a value in taking a stand, whether or not anybody may be noticing it, and whether or not it is a risky thing to do. And if even in those who are in danger can raise their lonely voices, isn't it more that is required of all of us in this land where liberty had her birth? I have a very personal feeling about how special America is. And I know how precious freedom is. It is a sacred gift sanctified by those who have lived it and those who have died defending it. My right to speak my mind, to have a voice, to be what some have called opinionated. Is a right I deeply and profoundly cherish. And my only hope is that one day soon, women who have all earned their right to their opinions, instead of being called opinionated, will be called smart and well-informed, just like men. Tonight, I want to remember my mother's warmth, generosity, wisdom, and hopefulness, and thank her for all the sacrifices she made on our behalf, like so many other mothers. And this evening, I want to acknowledge and honor the women of this world whose wise voices for much too long have been excluded and discounted. It is time for the world to hear women's voices in full and at last. In the past year, I have been privileged
to meet with Americans all across this land. They voiced many different concerns, but one they all share was about America's role in the world, what we want this great country of ours to stand for. To me, one of the best faces America has ever projected is the face of a Peace Corps volunteer. That face symbolizes this country, young, curious, brimming with idealism and hope, and a real, honest compassion. Those young people convey an idea of America that is all about heart, creativity, generosity, and confidence, a practical can-do sense, and a big, big smile. For many generations of people around this globe, that is what America has represented. A symbol of hope, a beacon brightly lit by the optimism of its people, people coming from all over the world. Americans believed that they could know all there is to know, build all there is to build, break down any barrier, tear down any wall. We sent men to the moon. And when that was not far enough, we sent Galileo to Jupiter. We sent Cassini to Saturn. And Hubble to touch the very edges of the universe in the very dawn of time. Americans showed the world what can happen when people believe in amazing possibilities. And that, for me, is the spirit of America, the America you and I are working for in this election. It is the America that people all across this nation and want to restore, from Iowa to California, from Florida to Michigan, and from Washington State to my home of Pennsylvania. It is the America the world wants to see, shining, hopeful, and bright once again. And that is the America that my husband John Kerry wants to lead. John believes in a bright future. He believes that we can and will invent the technologies, the new materials, and the conservation methods of the future. He believes that alternative fuels will guarantee that not only will no American boy or girl go to war because of our dependence on foreign oil, but also that our economy will forever become independent of this need. We can and we will create good, competitive, and sustainable jobs while still protecting the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the health of our children, because good environmental policy is good economics. John believes that we can and we will give every family and every child access to affordable health care, a good education, and the tools to become self-reliant. And John believes that we must and we should recognize the immense value of the caregivers in our country, those women and men who nurture and care for children, for elderly parents, for family members in need. These are the people who build and support our most valuable assets, our families. Isn't it time Isn't it time that we began working to give parents more opportunity with their children? And wouldn't it be wonderful for parents to be able to afford a full and good family life? With John Kerry as president, we can and we will protect our nation's security without sacrificing our civil liberties. In short, John believes that we can and we must lead the world as America, unique among nations, always should, by showing the face not of its fears, but of our hopes. And John is a fighter. He earned his medals the old-fashioned way. By putting his life on the line for his country. And no one will defend this nation more vigorously than he will. And he will always, always be first in the line of fire. But he also knows the importance of getting it right. For him, the names of many friends inscribed in the Vietnam Memorial, that cold stone, testify to the awful toil exacted by leaders who mistake stubbornness for strength. And that is why, as president, my husband will not fear disagreement or dissent. He believes that our voices, yours and mine, must be the voices of freedom. And if we do not speak, neither does she. In America, the true patriots are those who dare speak truth to power. And the truth that we must speak now is that America has responsibilities that it is time for us to accept again. With John Kerry as president, global climate change and other threats to the health of our planet will begin to be reversed. With John Kerry as president, the alliances that bind the community of nations and that truly make our country and the world a safer place will be strengthened once more. And the Americans John and I have met in the course of this campaign all want America to provide hopeful leadership again. They want America to return to its moral bearings. And it is not a moralistic America they seek. It is a moral nation that understands and willingly shoulders its obligations. A moral nation that rejects thoughtless and greedy choices in favor of thoughtful and generous actions. And it is a moral nation that leads through the power of its ideas and the power of its example. We can and we should join together to make the most of this great gift that we have all been given, this gift of freedom and this gift of America. In his first inaugural speaking to a nation on the eve of war, Abraham Lincoln said, "We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." Today, the better angels of our nature are just waiting to be summoned. We only require a leader who is willing to call on them, a leader willing to draw again the mystic chords of our national memory and remind us of all that we as a people, everyday leaders, can do, of all that we as a nation stand for, and of all the immense possibility that still lies ahead. I think I found that guy. And I'm married to him. John Kerry will give us back our faith in America. He will restore our faith in ourselves and in the sense of limitless opportunity that has always been America's gift to the world. Together, we will lift everyone up. We have to. It's possible. And you know what? It's the American thing to do. Good night, and God bless you.
Teresa Heinz Kerry, the wife of the Democratic presidential candidate, with her two sons up on the podium. We're told that John Kerry was watching this speech in a hotel in Philadelphia. We're told also by a pool reporter who was inside the room. He said she looks good when he saw her on the screen. Judy Woodruff, what do you make of the speech?
Well, Wolf, she may have been scripted, but I think the real Teresa Heinz Kerry came through. You saw her passion for her husband, her passion for the issues she cares about. She's an internationalist. She cares about the environment. Her foundation has funded that. And she believed, as she said, very, straightforward. She said John Kerry will be first in the line of fire. She got in her licks with George W. Bush. I think she accomplished several things.
Very strong appeal to the women's vote, which has been going Democratic for decades. The idea that someday opinionated women ought to be considered well-informed just like men. Some echoes from the 60s. That phrase, speak truth to power, that's a product of the Vietnam era and the protest movement. I think in a sense that this was a speech which was both biography, an attempt to reassure in the sense that she's a real patriot, but also striking at the Democratic base saying, I am one of you.
All right, Teresa Heinz Kerry getting a thunderous response from the delegates here at the Democratic National Convention. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
One look is all it takes. The Samsung LCD television with picture-enhancing DNI technology. It's hard to take your eyes off it. Experience the power within. Samsung.
My credit card company called me. They wanted to know if I charged 2 surfboards in Laguna Beach.
credit card companies are on the alert for fraud.
They gave me a new card the next day.
Most credit card fraud is detected before the victim even knows about it.
I wasn't held responsible.
If we think it's not you, we'll contact you to check a purchase.
I guess it wasn't a wipeout.
Your credit card companies.
How inspiring can a minivan be? Can it give you seats when you need them? And space when you don't? Yes. Introducing the all-new Chrysler Town & Country. The only minivan with stow-and-go seating and storage. Chrysler. Inspiration comes standard.
Want more? Get more. At the Chrysler Summer Sales Drive, get $1,000 bonus cash on Town & Country for a combined cash allowance of $2,000.
And that brings to an end day 2 of the Democratic National Convention. 2 more days here in Boston at the Fleet Center. CNN, of course, will have continuing live coverage. For Judy Woodruff and Jeff Greenfield, I'm Wolf Blitzer in Boston. Let's let Aaron Brown pick it up now in New York, a special edition of Newsnight. Aaron?
Wolf, thank you, and good evening again, everyone. Day 2 goes in the books. The convention still proceeding on message and more or less on time. In fact, by my watch, about 20 seconds early.